Oh, coming up next on YouTube, it's time for JT in the Whotastic panel. And for every 2 or 3 that leave, the groundbreaking Jinx Monsoon was right. We are getting more and more people every week. Sorry? These are the ratings. Oh. That's not very good, is it?
No, it's not very good, is it? But who to believe? The spin continues here with us on your big show, your Friday headlines. Hello, everybody. It's great to see you. Thank you for joining us here at Who's Views for, headlines. Goodness me. We've had a busy week. You've had a busy week. Has everybody got their heads together yet? Because mine is still literally spinning with all this information that's been given to us. But it is Friday the 14th of June 2024. You are absolutely very welcome to this. We've got a lot of chat coming up, and as ever, we want to know your opinions, and I also want to know their opinions. So let's bring everybody on here. We have got, joining me as usual, got Paul, and we've got third Dr. Ian, and we have the keeper of the scores from Who's Master himself, and our ratings analysis expert, Bedwe, is here as well, so you know what's coming up in this show. Guys, here we are again.
Hello again. Nice to see you, Adric. How are you doing?
Not just for you.
Yes, he's wearing his badge for mathematical excellence. Can you see that, everybody? Right, we're going to start off, everybody, as usual, with the usual thank yous. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody that's been getting in touch over the last few days. The inbox is inundated, guys. I cannot tell you. So I'm going to have to reiterate, I will get round to getting back to everybody. It takes me a while, but I will get there. You can get in touch with us at whosviews1@gmail.com. I know that our lovely, lovely Kirsty and the lovely, lovely Garbage are in the chat with us today, making sure you're all cozy. And I know they'll put all that in there for you as well. So thank you to them. But I just want to say a huge thank you for everybody, and especially to Neville Watkins for your comments. Thank you very much indeed. I want to say thank you as well to Ibrahim. It is lovely to hear from you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate your emails. To James Firth, to Jason Holden, to Sarah Cartwright, Martina Hernandez, all the way over there in sunny Spain. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for getting in touch. And for Roger Jackson, Damien Anderson as well. Lovely to hear from you. And also to our Graham. Yes, to Graham Buxton, who's been in touch. He might be in the chat now. I don't know because I haven't looked. But Graham, guys, sent me some pictures of his trip last year to the Gunnersbury Park West London Sci-Fi Exhibition. And 2 of the ones he sent me is this. This is him with a Remembrance Dalek.
Oh, lovely.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
That's some good news.
Well, you say that. I didn't show you. I'm not showing you the one where he sent me, where you can actually see. It's like one of those skirting boards that's been painted over and painted over and painted over. You know? But yeah, it's nice.
That was all the rage in Scaro then, though. Don't you know that?
Yeah. Dulux and Crown paints went through the roof on there.
It's when Davros did changing rooms. That's what happened.
And he's also got this one as well.
Wow.
Oh, very nice.
So isn't that lovely? It was only last year, and I remember seeing the bits and pieces about this, but obviously I couldn't get to it because it's all the way down there in Gunnersbury Park. But Graham, really appreciate that. Thank you for sharing those with us.
I visited it just before it closed, because it closed at the start of the month, I think.
Did you like it as well?
It was a lovely little exhibition, and they had a nice Vok robot for Robots of Death.
Yes, he sent me a picture of that as well. Yeah,
which is lovely. Nice little exhibition. It was worth going.
Well, there we go. So thank you for that, Graham. If anybody else is going traveling around, seeing any exhibitions or anything like that, and you want to send us some pictures, please do. whosviews1@gmail.com, and then we'll put them on one of our shows somewhere. It is lovely to see you all in the chat. Thank you so much. We will come to you very, very shortly, but let's crack on because we've got a lot to talk about, and I want to know all your opinions on all of these subjects tonight. We're going to kick off with the 11th Doctor himself. Have you heard about Matt Smith this week causing a little bit of a stir? Oh, God, I can't believe it. Is show business, everybody, completely and utterly loony? Yes, it's a rhetorical question. It is indeed. But have you seen this? Look at this. He made the press this week, didn't he? From various angles. There we have them here. Matt Smith of House of Dragon gently corrects interviewer on Emma Darcy's pronouns. House of Dragon's Matt Smith praised for correcting Sue Perkins over Star's pronouns. Sue Perkins feels terrible after repeatedly misgendering Emma Darcy at House of Dragon Prime, and it went on. Look at all this. Look at this. I don't know if you guys saw this interview, if any of you in the chat saw this interview, but it also shows you the hypocrisy and the nonsense of these are newspapers, everybody. And these newspapers should be reporting fact. And here they are reporting something that isn't a fact. It seems to me to be an example of gender dysphoria for this poor woman called Emma, whatever her name is. So Darcy. I don't know if you guys have seen this. Yeah, Emma Darcy. Did you guys see any of this?
No, I didn't, but is the Sue Perkins who was interviewing Matt the same Sue Perkins who's the comedian?
Yes.
Comedian.
Yeah, well, yeah, I use that term loosely. Yeah.
Well, let's introduce her.
That's a job title allegedly. Yeah.
This is Sue Perkins. If you're outside the UK, or even if you're new in the UK, Sue Perkins has been around for quite a while now. She did start in a double act back in the late 80s, early 90s. And they both, her and her partner, were on television for quite a while. Mel Gedra was a comedy partner. They did a few things. It was very hit and miss, wasn't it, what they were doing? It was the Bake Off really that made them, because they did the first 8 years of the Bake Off or something like that. It's a long time. And they made
it's now into 100 seasons now, isn't it? I think something like that.
Yeah, and its ratings are 25 million an episode.
Good for them.
But this was the whole thing about this. So this was Sue Perkins here. Now, Sue Perkins is a massive sci-fi fantasy fan, if you don't know. Yeah. She's also a huge fan of what's it called, the House of Dragon, which is a spin-off, I believe, from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So we've probably got some Game of Thrones fans. I know Kirsty loves it as well.
So she used to present a sort of companion piece program after Game of Thrones would air on Sky Atlantic, talking about the episode and things like that. So this is someone who's very into that world of Westeros, and it has continued that with, as you say, the spin-off House of the Dragon. I just feel terribly sorry for her, because she's been made to feel terrible. Unless the interview was live, why couldn't Matt have sort of said no?
Well, let's go through it, because people won't know what it is. Let's talk about this now, because I've got the headline here. It is this. This, of course, is taken from my friends over at the Pink newspaper. Of course, I'll just explain again if you are new to the channel. Pink newspaper, or the Pink paper as it used to be called, was once upon a time a great big broadsheet across the country, mainly in the cities, which was an LGB focused paper, and it had some really good information there about politics, because we needed it at the time, who was doing what, some showbiz, but not really, because we weren't interested back in the real days. We didn't care about actors really. It also had local groups, contacts, that sort of stuff, helplines, all that sort of stuff that you needed back then. It has, over the last few years, of course, fallen under the now TQ cult umbrella. And this is what they're saying about this. House of the Dragon's Matt Smith effortlessly corrects interviewer on Emma I can't say her blooming names because I don't know who she is. Emma Darcy's pronouns. It continues with this. Fans are praising House of the Dragon actor Matt Smith for effortlessly correcting Sue Perkins on co-star Emma Darcy's pronouns at the premiere for season 2 of HBO show. Season 2 of Game of Thrones spin-off House of the Dragon lands on Max on the 16th of June. Okay. Former Doctor Who star Smith is currently garnering heaps of praise. From fans online. That says it all. After effortlessly using Darcy's correct pronouns in an interview at the season 2 premiere. Being interviewed by former host, notice how they spelled former there, host of the Great British Sue Perkins at the premiere, which took place in London's Leicester Square on June the 12th. The pair spoke about the final scene of episode 1 of the season, with Perkins accidentally misgendering Darcy. Oh my goodness, shock horror. I was talking to Emma and she was saying, Perkins began, she was talking about how amazing that end scene was, and she gave you all the credit. Replying, Smith effortlessly answered, I can't take the credit, but I have to say, aren't they brilliant? Before adding, they are absolutely brilliant. And you're in for a real treat with Emma this year. I think Emma's put in a really great performance. Smith has been praised for slipping his House of the Dragon scene partner's correct pronouns into the conversation so effortlessly, not least by the original poster of the video, who had screen recorded the moment from a TikTok live stream from Sky. Matt correcting Sue on Ebba's pronouns. Oh, my heart, she wrote. It goes on like this. In response, another fan added, the way Smith looked the interviewer dead in the face and said they multiple times is chef's kiss. And a third commented, the huge emphasis he uses on they. Matt and the rest of the cast have been so lovely and respectful towards Emma. It's quite great to see. The way he put emphasis on the they, like he don't play about Emma at all. Another wrote, while a fifth joked, aren't they brilliant? Okay, Matt Smith, you ate that little one thing. I'm sorry, I can't speak kid speak. I really can't. It's just absolute nonsense. I mean, I was educated correctly. That's why I know why them is plural, why they is plural. And there's only one of that. And I also know that there's only two biological, there's a man and there's a woman. And Emma is a woman. So what the hell is going on? This is
I don't know what the fuss is. I mean, he didn't call her him, or Sue Perkins didn't call Emma him or he. So what's the problem? Yeah.
Well, obviously, it is a problem for them all here, isn't it? And I was just so disappointed in Matt Smith, because I've been saying on this show previously when we talked about Smith, he seems to be keeping himself to himself. He seems to be keeping some sort of sanity. But obviously, the show business cult around him has got to him at this particular point, and he's not. He's actually fallen for it as well, and he's as radically bizarre as the rest of them.
It's a shame, really, that we can't have a hotline to Moderna or somewhere and get them to knock up a quick vaccine for this mind virus, really, because that would probably be quite useful, and just get everybody in the entertainment industry and force inoculate them, because they were constantly harping on about force inoculating everybody else, weren't they, for the C virus. So, I mean, it's only fair to do it back, isn't it? Because they really are infected. They're seriously.
Well, I have to say, I think allegedly they did that during COVID, didn't they, Ian? And that was how it all started.
I was trying not to use the C word there.
Allegedly,
yeah.
And my mobile signal since has been so much better as well, I have to say.
Yeah.
Since I got my jabs,
They were all pushing it. They were all pushing it. And I think they need a jab, because they are seriously off their rocker.
Well, I mean, it really is an infection, and we've seen it. And as I said at the top of the show, though, when I showed those pieces from the newspapers, you are journalists, allegedly. You are newspapers, allegedly. One, this is not news. This is just filler, as we used to say. This is just filler. It's not news. And it's also fantasy. And what worries me, as ever, is the fact that these people are forcing this. This is enforced speech. And because these people are role models, and Matt Smith is certainly a role model, he has a fan base, we know it, and not just the Doctor Who fan base now. He has an awful lot of fans now because of the successful career he's had. A very good, accomplished actor now, an excellent character actor, in my opinion. And he's just disappointed me a bit there, because he's fallen into this clique of dictatorial speech. And here he is correcting somebody, which suggests to me that that's what they do. No, you have to say this, even though it's completely wrong to do that. I just find it very disappointing in him.
Well, the problem I have with it is he's made Sue Perkins feel, as she put in her tweet in response to this, terrible. So she now feels terrible and has been made to feel terrible for what is basically a simple error. She's not aware of this thing, and
why should she have to be? This is not reality. This is for somebody to come along and say, I'm a they, them. I would say, well, go and see a psychiatrist. And as far as I can see, having looked into this young lady, this Emma person, she is obviously, in my opinion, and I'm not trained in any way, shape or form, and I'm not a doctor, but she obviously seems to be suffering some form of gender dysphoria, which is not a pleasant thing to go through. And she should actually be looking for assistance, professional help. And this is where show business and all this media and all these people who are pandering to her. When somebody's ill, you don't pander to them. You get them help. And we've seen this a lot through show business. Oh, you're wonderful. You're marvelous. Oh, here's a lot of money. Here's a career, because you're breaking barriers. It's not barriers. It's fantasy, and it's delusional. Instead of pandering to them, say, actually, no, you are a female or a male. Let's get you in front of a psychiatrist. And 10 years ago and before, that's exactly what would have happened.
But it's such a trivial thing for Matt Smith to bring up. If she made a mistake, you'd easily gloss over it and carry on the interview, surely.
Well, that's what I mean
Well,
about the whole thing
yeah.
about enforced speech, because he's obviously agreed with it enough to say,
Yeah.
no, I'm correcting you here.
Yeah.
Well, I personally, unless that was a live interview, which it probably wasn't, it was probably
Live on
pre-recorded.
TikTok. It was live on TikTok on Sky, from Sky on their TikTok.
Other mints are available, folks.
Well, that doesn't. I mean, is that really live? You know, but why is
Yeah,
he?
huge.
You know, why is he got to do it? You know, people are putting it in a, you know, the effortlessly correcting. You know, I think he's not. He's very forcefully correcting her by, you know, and it's unnecessary. And you know, as I say, she's gone away now and feels terrible for something that's a completely innocent mistake. She's clearly unaware that that's how they like to be, you know,
not having
referred
any
to.
of that nonsense on this channel. We talk facts on this channel. She's not a they. She's a singular female person. She is a she. That's
I don't
it.
know. I don't know
any of that nonsense. Paul is coming on. Paul is saying to us here, it is more of a case of the press making a big thing about nothing rather than anything, Matt said. Yeah, it's also the fact that the pandering, that cult that are around that love it, don't they? They absolutely love that. They really want to put this, but it's the enforcement of this. Everybody's after this now. That's what worries me. It's compelled speech, and it's coming through the back door, and it's coming under the fact that people want to say, oh, we've got to be nice, or we've got to be lovey-dovey, oh, we've got to be tolerant. No, this is not it. This is dictatorial enforced speech. Hello and welcome to Whose Views, Vazan. I hope I've said that right. Van San, nice to see you. So this is how it ends, not with a bang, but with endless, thunderous virtue signaling. Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where we're at now. This is it's becoming more and more revealing.
I think, like you said, Bedwyr, it was unnecessary. He should use some discernment as a grown adult to know whether or not it's appropriate to effectively humiliate somebody like that. I mean, I'm not a fan of Sue Perkins, and part of me thinks it's quite funny because it's this cult eating its own a little bit.
It absolutely is.
Yes,
it does often go off on one about normies and everything, and she loves it. So in some respects, it's funny that she's getting some herself, but Matt needed to understand that what he's basically done is publicly humiliated somebody. Now, I'm sure he's made mistakes before, and he's basically saying, if I make a mistake, humiliate me, because everybody wants treating equally and the same, right? So it's open season on Matt Smith or anybody else. He's been very silly there. Very silly.
Yeah, he has, but again, I think the whole industry is. TARDIS Travels is saying to us here, Matt Smith wants to not fall foul and not be cancelled by the industry. There's an awful lot of that going on as well, isn't there? There really is. I was reading today as well on X, on the social platform there, that and I'm not going to quote him directly, of course, but Mr. James Dreyfus has retweeted information that he's had today, and apparently and allegedly, some 3 alleged actors are trying to get together some sort of comedy or cheap comedy together, which criticizes J.K. Rowling. And they can't get anybody to play the part of J.K. Rowling. And allegedly, over 90 actresses have turned the role down or snubbed it. Now, that says a lot. That says that not all of the industry believes in this nonsense or believes in the accusations. But more of them need to come out and stop being frightened of losing work, because they've got to start saying, this is nonsense.
But then at the same time, how does this impact on Sue Perkins' career?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Because she's going to be in a quandary now. Let's have a look at that, because you did mention that, Bedwyr. So let's have a look at that now. This was the tweet here, because Matt Smith, of course, at this point gets, again, people who like it and people who aren't, as usual. And this is a particular point here from X. A lesbian apologizing for correctly sexing a straight woman despite the attempts to police her speech by a straight man. Happy Pride Month. And she's had a lot of this now, because yes, not that it matters in any way, shape or form, but Sue Perkins is a lesbian, but she's a lesbian that seems to be bending the knee to the TQ cult because she can't win. So now she's got women and lesbians and LGBT people criticizing her, as well as the other side. You can't win with this, so keep your mouth shut, basically, or choose a side, preferably the one that's based in reality, and stick to it and stand up for yourself.
Well, I'm surprised Matt Smith is still working, because he's the same ethnicity as myself, so that's why I'm surprised he's still working, to be honest.
And he's a certain age as well, isn't he?
He's not as old as me, but he's getting there. But, He's into that bracket. He'll be able to work any minute now. I'm surprised David Tennant's still working as well, to be honest.
We'll have them on the show.
He's got a game show. That's the end of his career, isn't it? So there we go. But
one at a time. What was that, Ian? Sorry.
Has Sue Perkins done I'm a Celebrity yet? Because if she hasn't, this is probably her route back.
Paul, didn't she host it?
No, it's always been Anton Deck, isn't it?
Yeah.
Was it? Oh, okay. Well, I thought she'd done one of those reality things. Must be getting it mixed up then. Well, listen, yeah, as you mentioned before, after the furore, obviously, Ms. Perkins decides, I must say something. Always the worst thing to do. Bending the knee to these people is never, ever, as most of us will know, is never going to placate them, and they will haunt you for the rest of your life. As we are seeing now with her, this is what she said in response. It was a shitty mistake. I had lots of stuff going on in my earpiece, and so I wasn't as focused as I should have been. No excuses, though. These things matter, and I feel terrible about it. I'm a massive fan of their work and would never want to be disrespectful. Utter hypocrite.
She wasn't being, the thing about it, she wasn't attacking her. She wasn't being deliberately offensive. She made a simple mistake, and now she's up against a firing squad.
It's not a mistake. It's a fact. This actress is a woman. She's not a man. She is a woman. She is not a they. She is not five of them. It's not even a mistake.
She's not.
We've got to stop pandering to these.
She's not a collective term.
We've got to use these
group
terms.
of people.
No, she is a woman, and if she's watching this show, go and see a bloody doctor, for crying out loud.
But as someone said in the chat earlier, it's first world problems. That's what it is. Simple as that.
Yeah. But I'm saying we cannot think this is normal. We cannot put this into our speech, because what happens then? It becomes accepted. And these people are delusional. These people are in need of real help, in my opinion. They have to be looked at. They really, really do. And that's what I would say to them. But it is also hypocritical because, yes, this is cropped up because everything online is online forever. And from 2010.
Yeah.
The world doesn't need to see me in sequins, says Sue Perkins. I'd look like a... And I can't say that word, so we can't say that word. But it's there for you. Now, this is the other bit of hypocrisy here, everybody. If you can't say the T word, why can you say the Q word? Why can you say cool, but you can't say that word? Do you know what I mean?
I'm completely lost.
What, can I ask? I won't say it, but why can't you say it? Why can't you say it? Is it to do with YouTube's rules?
It's to do with that, and it's to do with all sorts of words. It's a triggering word, and I have been banned. And if Problem Being is in the chat, he will tell you, if you use that T word, you are banned instantly on social media platforms, all of them. Okay. Absolutely.
So if you drive a van or listen to the radio, you can't use that word
at all. Stuffed. You're absolutely stuffed.
Well, yeah, because it doesn't mean that anymore, does it? You know?
Well, I had a friend use that word talking about a van on Facebook, and he got banned for a month. And he was talking about a van. A large van that had the same kind of terminology, but it's a van, not a person. So there we go.
Yeah. Made by Ford.
That's the ones, yes.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, you're with me. Yeah, and you got banned off Facebook for a month for talking about a van. You know,
yeah,
that's crazy.
Yep. I want to say a huge thank you. Things have changed here slightly at Who's Views, and I'm still getting used to all this, but I'm absolutely delighted. And I want to say a huge thank you to Digby, our mate Digby, who's just given us £10, and to say never apologise to the mob. I really appreciate that. You're our first one here on Who's Views to do that. Wow. I'm chuffed to bits. So thank you so much. It's all come as a bit of a shock, actually, all of this sort of stuff. But thank you for that, Digby. Never apologise to the mob is what he's saying. I don't know how to bring it up on the blooming screen, actually, but there you go.
That's another box of pencils ordered there. There we go.
But thank you for that. I really appreciate that, Digby. And you can't do that. You must never do that. You must never, ever, bend the knee to these people. He's also saying here, very disappointed in Matt Smith. So was I, because I was just so surprised at that, Digby, to be able to say, oh my God, what's he doing? And to do it in that way. Yes, he was very restrained. But when you look at it, go and look at the clip. You can see it now everywhere. You can see more or less that he's telling her off. Now, maybe that's my interpretation. Let me know if you agree with me.
It's very passive aggressive, but yeah, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he's never going to be aggressive with her, but he's talking to her like a child, and he's correcting her. And that lady there, the tweet that we showed there, who is a very out and proud lesbian, she was absolutely right to say that. She was absolutely right to say that. A lesbian apologizing for correctly sexing a straight woman despite the attempts to police her speech by a straight man. She's absolutely right to say that. So Matt Smith is getting a little bit of a, well, it'll die off as usual. But this, again, we're just seeing all these culture wars as usual, aren't we? And it's going to get worse before it gets better. Brian is with us. Hello, Brian. Fortunately, I've never had any dealings with these people. If I did, it would be interesting. My reaction would be, sorry, my reaction would be, shall we say, be down to earth? Or my reaction would be, shall we say, yeah. I don't play that anymore.
I wonder, to be fair, if the interview went and he didn't mention it, would Matt Smith have been reprimanded for not correcting her? You know what I mean? It seems daft. You know,
well, it would have been by the small amount of people who are in the Game of Thrones fandom as they are ours, and they would have got him.
Yeah.
But the press wouldn't have cared. The press wouldn't have picked it up. They wouldn't have made any sort of reporting about it because it's the norm.
Yeah, yeah.
Robert is saying us here, pronouns has become more and more dull. Well, it really has, hasn't it? And the mainstream media is celebrity obsessed of Richard Hussey. They're also obsessed with all these pieces of nonsense, aren't they? That's going on and placating these people. And as I say, let's support them to be able to say, actually, you're living in cloud cuckoo land here, and this is a man in a white coat who can help you, hopefully. You know, because some people can't be helped, and that's where other experts have to come and help them. But the majority of people can be.
It's that fear of not using the right speech and the fear of what will happen to them. And history shows us that not very nice things have happened when people like that start getting their way by means of fear and threats. And it's quite, I find it quite insidious, really.
Oh, totally. It's as I say, it's the fact it frightens me, this whole thing, from coming some sort of fad. You're now seeing people in professional organizations with this stuff on their emails and sign-offs. And I know for a fact this week there is a certain organization we won't name who is dictating to their staff they have to use pronouns. It's not the law. In fact, it's against the law in a sense because it's not true. So if you're in the UK, refuse. Absolutely refuse. Get taken to HR, make a big fuss of it, they'll drop it. Matthew is saying to us, divide and divide and divide until there is civil war. It might happen. We were talking about that recently, weren't we? Oh, and DD's with us, Divining Dragon. Nice to see you. If Matt Smith doesn't revisit this issue, it will die down. If he ups the ante like David Tennant, there will be further problems. I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also, it's also a case of, what's the word here? What am I going to say? It's also a case of being able, I don't know how to say this properly, so I'm not going to say it.
Fair enough. Probably safer.
Well, I think the next stage will be as if Matt Smith kicks off at a convention, see what happens there. So
exactly, yeah. And Atom, thank you for Atom. Atom is giving us $1.99. You're a wee star. Thank you very much. They then sets up a constant validation, and that's the goal. That's more or less what I was going to say. And thank you for that, Atom. Yes, you're absolutely right, and you've said it beautifully there. Their delusion and the fact that they're always after a validation, as Atom is saying to us here, and thank you again for that, really appreciate it, is basically saying to us, you will honor my fantasy, my belief, and then that affects reality. Where's that going to take us? Because, you know, it's quite, I mean, this is a science fiction story in itself about where we could go if this nonsense is allowed to continue in a world where there are 200 genders. And actually there aren't. It's just what people are waking up on a Monday morning and feeling they're going to be that day. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've got our very own Phil in the chat as well, who's given us £2. He says he wants it back.
It's just a loan, I'd imagine. Yeah.
He just wants a pencil.
I've got pencils for him. I keep meaning to send them, and I just haven't had the time yet. What else are you saying? Oh, well, Problem Brain's with us as well. Nice to see you, mate. Thank you. What do you think about this? Tell me. And Simon L is with us. So Simon's going to be with us for this show, but he's off to see, not the Wizard, but he's off to see the Legend of the Ruby Slippers at the Pictures next week, aren't you, Simon?
Ooh.
So he might be...
There'll be plenty of leg room there and plenty of seats, I'd imagine, too. So
exactly. This is the point as well. Andy is saying this in jest, but this could be it. Andy Gledhill, models and no fan of RTD Doctor Who, is saying to us, I identify as a tin of tuna. Now, that's the issue. And I get the joke. I think it's very funny. But I've actually seen this in well, we've heard about it as well, he says, clarifying, in schools where we've got people identifying as cats in schools, and very, very bizarre teachers around them pandering to them. What? Oh,
sunflower oil or spring water
or brine, even.
Brine.
Very salty. Yeah.
Mark, hello, Mark Jones. Totally agree with this one. I remember Tilly Mallet used to do on Piccadilly Radio 126 or 261 it was back in the day when I was a kid in the 80s. He would have a various part of his show every night, Monday to Friday, which was called Timmy on the. That was part of his show.
Yes.
He wouldn't be able to say it anymore.
Yeah, I like the radio myself. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sad, isn't it, that we've got to this state that you just can't smile anymore for some melting bedwetter getting upset and having to do loads of apologies. It's just ridiculous.
I know. Well, this is the problem, isn't it? You're right, Ian.
Transistor's all right, though, isn't it? You can say it's transistor.
I have no idea now. I have no idea. We'll soon know if we're closed down. So we better avoid it all. But, it's a real case of, this is silly. Matt 532 thinks it's ridiculous the story is getting so much press, and it's getting so much press because these people who are insisting that we follow this dictate have made it into a huge fuss. And as you can see there by those press pieces, I thought it was very interesting. It's something that we talk about every now and then here. But Divine Dragon is saying to us, whose views, just imagine if they covered this kind of SF idea in Doctor Who. Never going to happen. Well, they sort of touched on it in the Starbeast, didn't they?
Well, that was in the Starbeast. Yeah,
it's going to happen for the finale. Definitely, there's more of that.
I've got a feeling it might. Yeah.
And Anthony Parkinson is saying to us, their constant need to feel special is what it's all about. Totally. And as we're saying there, it's all about the validation.
Yeah.
Well, no wonder cinemas are closing down. Wayne is saying to us, good evening, all. Did I miss anything spicy? Not yet. We're just getting started, my friend. But it's nice to see you. Lovely to see you. Oh, and Matthew is saying to us here, my union are pushing this crap, and that's why I left the union. I don't understand why the trade unions are doing that at all. But have you read certain parties' manifestos this week? If not, go and have a look. I'm not going to influence anybody because we're not that sort of show. That's not what we do. But I was crying, and not with happiness. I was just like, you are kidding me. And the problem is, as a mate of mine said, let's move. Let's go abroad. And I said, to where? Where? Because this thing is like a virus around the world.
I have to say, North Korea is looking much more attractive than it used to be. I have to say.
Getting them eating cat food, they'll soon snap out of it. That's why I said something like that, except mine was a little bit more graphic about these kids. And what else we got here? Oh, there was one kid identifying as the moon, I heard. Yes, that's another one that's hit certain national problems and national television shows, hasn't it? Problem being is saying, does anyone remember in the 1990s, the new age indigo children, the generation of evolved superhumans? Yep. But we got the millennials with their sodding pronouns. It's true, though. It's true, isn't it? It's absolutely true. Listen, thank you all, everybody, for coming to join us here on Who's Views this evening. This is your Friday big show, kicking off your weekend in style. We, of course, are the essential weekend viewing. See what I did there? Here at Who's Views. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Right, we're going to move on. Matt Smith, if you're looking in on this.
No bed.
what he said. More of that coming up now because, yes, let's do one of our Wonder Woman spins, shall we? Because Bedwee is here for a reason. Let's get on with this. Well, what a few days it's been since we were last here talking about the ratings, because spin after spin after spin after spin, it really is becoming a little bit of a minefield of a mess. And I reckon after this weekend, but it's going to be even more so.
Quite possibly. Obviously, we came on Monday night because the numbers were lower than we anticipated. And so we talked about that. If you haven't seen our stream from Monday, go and check it out, where we dive into 7 days for Dot and Bubble, not good.
Dot and Bubble, and then we had the Rogue thing as well. Jamie, thank you so much. Jamie, our friend Jamie Knight has just given us here. I've got some out-of-date gammons on aisle 12. What shall I mark them down to? And he's given us £5. Thank you so much for that. I'm wow, I can't believe it. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that, Jamie. But do you know what, Jamie? That reminds me of a Victoria Wood sketch from back in the 80s, where Celia Imley's character and Victoria Wood is playing the character on the till, and she's in the supermarket. And Celia Imley's kind of, oh, here's this bacon. And she says, oh, and she starts wiping it. She says something along the lines of, is it streaky? Well, it should be, but it'll come off, and all this. And she says, well, how much is it? She goes, oh, it's from 1985 or 1975 or whatever. It's just a fantastic thing. Red cabbage, how much? But thank you for that, Jamie. Really appreciate it. Yes, so we have your usual in-depth analysis, haven't we? But we're about coming up. So let's go and start with this. Everybody, you're going to love this. Let's start with this one, shall we?
Yeah. So the numbers that we didn't have on Monday to talk about were the 28-day ratings. So the plus 28s for Space Babies and the Devil's Court. For context, this is a period of time that was brought in quite a few years ago now. And it was largely to reflect the fact that programs that would go onto the iPlayer, BBC iPlayer, would be available for 28 days. So that's how long people had to watch any particular show. That has since changed, and programs are up there for a lot longer. But yet they still provide a plus 28-day figure. And unfortunately, unfortunately for some, that is where they stop counting, basically. So the plus 28-day ratings are now available for Space Babies and the Devil's Court. Space Babies reached 4.39 million, which was an increase of 380,000 viewers from the plus 7. So in the 3 weeks after the first week, it added another 380,000 viewers. Strangely,
incredible increase.
Yeah, the Devil's Court did slightly better, and that reached 4.44 million viewers, which was an increase of just over 500,000, 530,000 extra views between weeks 2, 3, and 4.
I hope you're all understanding this, because this is, if you don't, let us know in the chat and I'll get them to explain it a bit more, because this is really complicated stuff. But this is why they're able to actually fudge and bend and twist all this stuff, because they use all these words, don't they? It's totally bizarre. Go on,
I was a bit impressed you said, but where they stopped counting after this period until they changed the rules again, obviously.
Well, supposedly, yeah. So as I mentioned, the plus 28 was to reflect when these episodes would come off iPlayer and would no longer be available, so you couldn't count anymore. However, they are obviously still available, and so who knows? By the time we reach the end of the summer, they might have added on everyone who's since gone back and looked at it again as well. But for now, officially, the plus 28-day ratings are when we'll stop counting for sure. Shout out to Peter Nolan of Blogs who reported these, but they are basically figures that are released by the broadcast website. That's not to be confused with the Doctor Who screening website, which is Broad WCast, which is excellent. If you've not seen it, go and have a look.
Good tip.
Yeah, that if you're interested in what episode screened when in far-flung reaches of the world, that's the website. But broadcast is a separate website that published 28-day figures and lots of other numbers besides. So this is the source from which we are getting these numbers from.
Yes, and we do like a bit of
Can I ask again, what was the figure for Space Babies, just to make sure I heard that right?
So Space Babies got 4.39 million viewers over 28 days.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, that's interesting. I heard a different figure from someone else, but that's
Well, this is the thing. We're hearing
We
different
shall,
figures,
go
different
into that.
elements, aren't we? So Bedouin is going to come to that very, very shortly because there's an awful lot out there. So what we're going to try and do, thanks to Bedouin and his mathematical badge of excellence there, show that to the camera. There you go. We're going to try and contain that, and he's going to try and get the actual facts to you here. Jamie, please don't struggle coming up with gammon puns every week because we love them, so keep them coming.
Yeah, keep them coming. Keep them coming. Yeah.
Record low, said Cybermat Strikes there. Nice to see you, mate. Record low in viewer figures. We met all key demographics. Yes, that's coming here. And Paul has just reminded me something here. Thank you, Paul Ashworth, for reminding me that still no audience appreciation scores. Now, while we're on that point, guys, just to bring this into Bedouin's bit, I do have the rumor. Now, I do have to tell you all, it's a rumor. Now, you may have seen these, you may not have seen these, but this is a rumor. So we can't confirm these. Let's go through all the housekeeping. We can't confirm these. We cannot deny these. They are not official in any way because the official ones have not been released. They're just not there, which is unusual to say the least. So bearing in mind what Doctor Who fandom is like as well, this could be a pile of poo-poo. Okay. Oh gosh.
Can I just check? Can he say poo poo? Can I check on that?
If you are ready, this is Michael is saying this actually. Look at this. Michael is saying Space Babies, game over, man. Game over. Well, you are right, because these are the rumors for the AIs. Now, hopefully one of these days we'll get the figures, the proper figures. But here we go. Rumors. Space Babies, 71. The Devil's Board, 69. Boom, 74. 73 yards. Sadly, not 73, but 77. Dot and Bubble, 72. And Rogue, 71. So if they are true, and they are rumor, but if they were true, that would mean they all fall below the 75 level achieved by the lowest rated episode ever, which was at that point The Legend of the Sea Devils, with the exception of the 73 yards, which holds its own alongside something called Flux. I don't know.
Flux? Yeah.
What the Flux? Yeah, exactly.
That's the one. Yeah.
I've just had a quick scan through my spreadsheet of knowledge, and typically for context, Doctor Who would get high 70s, 80s, that sort of figure. So that's not great.
It's not great at all, but remember, it's a rumor. But you know, the longer they don't publish it, the more I think it could be true, because they won't want this sort of information put out there, will they? Let's see what you're all saying in the chat about that. Domgo is joining us. Nice to see you, Domgo. Thank you for joining us here. And Robert was saying there, I bet the extra 28-day viewers were not many new viewers. Absolutely not. PB is saying to us, wait, hang on. I thought RTD said Space Babies had gone up to over 5 million on the 28-day nonsense. We're going to be coming to that very, very shortly, mate, because, yes, but he has got something. Paul Hogarth is saying, so Turdy Davis was talking crap in the Radio Times interview. Are you shocked?
Kelsa, please. Yeah.
I know, Kelsa, please. And Andy is saying to us, excuse me, but RTD said that Space Baby's got 5.6 million at 28 days. Do you know what? When we talked about the 28 days, all I thought about was that film. Remember that film, 28 Days? That's all I was thinking about, you know, oh gosh, how many more?
When we get the appreciation figures officially, will they have like Tipex out the 7 to make it an 8 and a 10 like that, you know?
But they are the rumor, and they're not good rumors, are they? They're really not good. Boom, says Michael. Yeah, absolutely, and not in a Basil Brush way. And Neville is saying to us here, it's depressing. You just know they'll fudge it to justify another series. Now, I reckon there's something in that, Neville. I think most of us will do if we're going to be, whether you want to call it bitchy or catty or whatever, honest is what I would call it, because we know season 2's in the can. We all know that. They'll be desperately looking now for a series 3. We were saying just the other night as well, and we've been saying since the beginning of the year how he started planning in complete and utter arrogance our 3rd season in the same vein as this one and the second one. Ooh, I think that's only ground.
Shall we cover the 5.6 then, JT?
We will,
yes, please.
Give us a sec. Let me just make sure that everybody's telling us stuff in the chat, because we're getting a lot of chats coming through. These 28-day figures suck. The BBC know it's in big trouble. And Duck Soup Productions joining us is here. So even at plus 28, they're not even coming close to the rating in Tom Baker's era. Gilliam is with us as well. I've worked out what's happening to Doctor Who. No real people are watching it at all. It's real fans gave up when we had the Jodie and Joker Master kill off 55 years of history. Only people watching now are whatever YouTube. Oh yeah, YouTube. Well, we know who's watching the show, don't we? We know the demographic there. Let's look at that bit though, Bedwyr here. This was from the Radio Times, but we covered this the other night, didn't we?
Yeah. Yeah,
we covered this the other night. So this was from this week's Radio Times, and this was an article or an interview rather with Russell T Davies, and this is where this comes from, where the Radio Times said to him, "This year feels like a reinvention of the show. The new streaming era with Disney. Any growing pains? Anything you'd do differently looking back?" RTD replies, "I mean, no, to be honest. I'm very proud of it. You know, they might not be the ratings we'd love. We always want higher, but they are building over the 28-day period. Episode 1, Space Babies, is already up to 5.6 million and counting. So it is getting there. And actually, I was brought back to bring in a younger audience, and that's been massively successful." Bedwyr.
So these are the real numbers. So for context, again, the 28-day figure only starts from the 2014 Christmas special last Christmas, which was Capaldi's first, I think. So we've only got plus 28 figures from then onwards. This chart demonstrates that Space Babies and The Devil's Cord are two of the bottom three for plus 28 ratings. Where he has got 5.6 from is open to speculation. For those outside of the UK, Doctor Who is screened on BBC One on a Saturday night. It also gets a repeat on BBC Three, which is a separate channel, on the Sunday. There's also, I believe, a BBC Two screening, which possibly has sign language.
Yeah.
They
I
don't publicise those, do they?
No, they don't. But I'm sure
No.
those who need that service.
I hope so. I hope they know. Yeah.
Yeah. But I have a strong suspicion that they are collating those three screenings to get to 5.6. Now, this is where our discussion about people watching it multiple times comes in. Because if you're watching it on BBC One, if you're watching it on BBC Three on a Sunday, that's 2. Mm-hmm. So if you get enough people doing that, plus watching it on the iPlayer, it could rack up. And I think either he's been told the wrong number of 5.6, which, is perfectly possible, or I think they are possibly adding up these additional things. Now, you might see these complete history books. If you look at some of the modern stories, they include the viewing figures. They also list a repeat as well, which has separate viewing figures.
Yes.
And it used to be a case where, for example, when Doctor Who was coming out of the Tennant specials, you had BBC One and you had BBC HD as a separate channel, and they would collate those two figures. Now BBC One is just in HD, and there's no need to do that. But back then, what are we talking? 2009, 2010, that sort of era, they would collate those as one, as it was the same screen, and just although different channels, it was the same time frame. It was just one was in HD, one was in standard definition. And I have a feeling that they're doing something now with collating a lot of separate screenings, plus, as I mentioned, the iPlayer numbers as well. That's my suspicion. All alleged. It could just be that someone's told him the wrong number.
It wouldn't surprise me though, and as you say, everything's alleged, but it wouldn't surprise me if they do, because that would push them up. It also would explain possibly why the Christmas one, the Church on Ruby Slippers, went up so dramatically? Repeat
Well,
viewing and iPlayer.
It depends where you're looking. So again,
Good point.
there are some online outlets who stated it was 10 million. The official number was 8 exactly, I think.
I think it was around that, isn't it? Yeah, I can't
remember.
remember.
Oh, hang on, let me.
It was ridiculous. It was about 8. Oh, was it 8? Just over 8? Was it? Who viewers? Let us know if you can remember.
So the official plus 28 rating was 8 million exactly.
There we go.
I've also seen it quoted as, you know, being around 8.5, and Radio Times was quoting 10 million.
That's where I got the 10 million from, because it was from that. That was the RT in January, wasn't it? That said that. Yeah.
That's just not borne out by the numbers. Now, they could easily get to 10 million with repeat viewings beyond the 28 days. But that's, you know, you could count indefinitely.
Yeah.
You know, let's go back and start counting how many times Unearth Each. Well, maybe not. That's a bad example. Genesis of the Daleks has been watched on the multiple repeats that's had over the years. You know, it's you've got to draw the line somewhere, and the plus 28 is where that line needs to be. It's not ideal because, as I say, you know, it's not really reflective of, and it opens, you know, gives people more time to do multiple watches and things like that. But if that's the line that you're going to draw of plus 28, then that's the number they have to stick to. But clearly they're not.
The whole point about this as well is the fact that it's within a 28-day period. Now, talk about goalposts quite appropriately for this evening and at the start of this weekend. But goalposts are being shifted constantly here to fit the narrative, to fit their dictate again, if you like, as well, isn't it? Because these things are now important for them. This is what's going to renew a third series for them. Now, they all want to keep their jobs. Of course they do. That's going to be important to them. So they want to do that. They don't want to have their the gravestone saying the people that killed Doctor Who, which is what, of course, the wonderful legend John Nathan Turner had for the majority of his later life. So, you know, it's a case of that they could have that, though. That could be their responsibility. So isn't it funny? It's gone from overnight. It's gone then to 7 days, and that's been the most important thing ever, as we know, because we've all been told that, haven't we, Who viewers? We've all been shouted at over the past few years. It's always the overnights. That always the 7 days. Now we're being told no. Now it's the 28 days. This is just sheer nonsense, isn't it? It's absolute desperation.
I think it's fascinating to see Russell himself point to a 28-day number. Now, I don't know when he did that interview, but if it was published in the Radio Times on Tuesday, they must have an incredibly quick turnaround with their printing, because that number would only have been apparent on the Monday.
Well, let's have a look. It's Friday today. Radio Times and all the TV listings magazines, which we are going to be going through on this show as well, so stay with us. They are out on a Tuesday without fail. They are out on a Tuesday on the shops, in the newsagents, the supermarkets around the country on a Tuesday without fail. So therefore, it must go to print around about now, around about Friday, so they can start distributing them from the Saturday, and definitely on the Monday if they get people working over the weekend now, so they can get them in all over the United Kingdom Monday night, so the staff can put them out on the Tuesday morning. So it's around about last night or today printed. So even if it's a telephone interview with somebody like RCD, it can be done very quickly and then put into the magazine, and I'm boom, because it's so much easier to go this time around, isn't it? It really is. So also, but as well, from a business point of view, I would be very surprised if the breakdown on ratings per episode weren't to the nth degree. Saturday night, Sunday, that one, iPlayer, so that they can look at it all constantly, you know?
There will be people within the BBC whose job it is to solely look at these numbers.
Of course.
We are having to pick up this data from other sources. We don't get access to that. And when we talk about demographics and things like that, the BBC will be looking at that specifically, and only they will have that information. And us plebs will never see that. That'll never see the light of day.
No.
So
Well,
all we can
as
talk
Doctor
about
Who
is
fans, we know that as one day we will. As Doctor Who
Yeah.
fans, we know we will see things. We will get to read about. Say, well, we might not, because we might all be dead. But certain, I mean, I hope I'm not, because then I want to go no to everybody that's been criticising me for the past 5-6 years. But yes, I am that childish.
Well, I can't wait for the plus 25 years scale. That'll be interesting. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's crazy, really, isn't it? Because and there's a point just being put on screen there that's very, very valid.
Okay.
If you're going to do this and you're going to make it a level playing field, then you have to do a realistic, reasonable estimate of what the classic series would have had with their rewatches over time. Because you're absolutely right, as we've said before, and as you've said before, Bedway, Battlefield was in that bottom 10 list, and hopefully after this weekend it won't be any longer, was in that bottom list. But that was just an overnight, and that was it. But, you know, we were all video recording it then. It's not my favourite story, but I've watched Battlefield a fair few times.
Yeah.
But if you look at things like Spearhead from Pertwee for me, Spearhead from Space, Demons, Death to the Daleks, Time Warrior, they're just 3 or 4 particular favourites for me. And I have watched them so many times, especially Spearhead, I cannot tell you. And I won't be the only one. So I was saying that Spearhead is having its overall viewing figure from 1970 bumped up to the nth degree, because it would only be fair. And you mentioned Genesis, absolutely. It's been on several times, but how many people have watched it on their physical media? You know, does Earthshock? Earthshock's had a few showings. You know,
It has. Yeah. But the
and
important thing about what you're saying there.
To start with.
Sorry, and the important thing about what you're saying there, though, is, however, as Doctor Who fans, we know these things are recorded, and they're recorded as original transmission, and then the repeat transmissions. We could go back now, any of us, and look at Genesis, as we did on our review, and we can say on the original it got this amount, but then on all the subsequent repeat showings it's had over the years into the 90s, it had this and this and this and this. You know, there are other people on the Tube of Who do fantastic documentaries about all this sort of stuff, and show it all coming out. Let's go into the chat and see what
I was going to do the same thing.
We've got a lot of people. We've got a lot of people with us tonight, so thank you so much for watching us. Really appreciate it. Digby is saying to us here, it seems that the viewing figures are just not trustworthy. No, they're not, because they're all justifying their own jobs in here now, and this is show business and the British television industry now. And you could also state as well that, at least in a theatre, when you get into a theatre, having paid your 150 quid ticket to get into one of the back seats, and you don't see anybody else in there, you know exactly what's going wrong, and they've got that. Paul Richards is with us to say, people tell me it's still Doctor Who and it always changes, so I should get over myself. That's the world I've been in for a little while. And yes, we've had it all this week, haven't we? Steve is saying to us here, Stephen Braddock is saying to us here, Ark in Space will be up to 10 billion then. I hope so, because that's a great one. We've also got, fantastic. Everybody here, we've got a lot of comments. I'll come to the guys in a second. Steve Henley was also saying there, look, justice for Battlefield. It's on its way, as Ian says, it's on the way. And Divine and Dragon, we've still got 2 episodes of Disney Who to go. Divine and Dragon, DD is saying to us, when we look at numbers from 20 plus years back, I really want them to factor the population of the country into the mix. It makes a difference in terms of ratios. That is a fantastic point. Britain now is packed. We are much bigger society, a much bigger population than we were even in the 80s. It's incredible, isn't it? So brilliant. Lisa is saying, hello, Lisa. Lovely to see you. Hope everything's fine with you in your neck of the woods. Battlefield is a brilliant story. I will quite happily watch Battlefield any day over what we're being given right now. And Mike Disney is with us saying, but how could anyone watch it twice?
Because they're committed.
Yeah.
Or needs to be committed.
Yeah. Yeah. But
they're on a waiting list for that, I think.
The fact, as Mia said as well, it's on different channels. You've got it on BBC One, you've got it on BBC Two, and then you've got it on BBC Three. That is them really cooking this go. I mean, this is clever in a sense. They know what they're doing here, because that's 3 different channels, 3 different ratings. And Bedouin, I think you might possibly be correct, allegedly. They could actually be just pushing it all together. Domgo is saying to us here, Cardiff are scared. If you read between the lines of the spin, they are scared.
So they should be.
Yeah, they should be. Absolutely.
Giving us this crap, allegedly.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got one for you, from Aronite1 Bedouin. Could Bedouin please explain or guess how important the 16 to 34 demographic is to the BBC, iPlayer, Disney Plus, etc.? Good question, Aronite1. What do you think of that?
Well, based upon what Russell T Davis said in that RT interview, that is clearly the goal, and the goal is to target that demographic, and that will be via iPlayer and Disney Plus as well, outside of the UK. That is clearly the strategy that they're going with. I personally don't agree with that strategy, because for me, Doctor Who is a program for everyone, and it should be broad enough that we mentioned this in another episode. You know, as Tom Baker said, you watch him with grandparents, with the little kids, and everyone in between. That, for me, is what Doctor Who should be, and I don't think it should be targeting a specific demographic. In this case, it's going to be, you know, the 16 to, I think 34 is probably a bit higher. I think they're probably going 16 to 25, you know, demo.
Yeah.
Well, we've got it here, actually. I can tell you about this. Now, again, I just want to put in as well, it's my personal theory, Aaron Knight and all Who viewers, that the reason they are so besotted with this mythical audience that doesn't exist, and also this youth demographic, especially from the BBC, is so that they can capture the audience of the future for the TV license. You know, that's what I'm thinking they are actually doing. That's what I'm thinking they're desperate to make sure that the next generation are coming through, because they know they're not. In our day, for those of you outside the UK, we were born into the BBC because we had this wonderful thing every night, Monday to Friday, called Children's Deli. And it gave us good programs. It gave us dramas. It gave us comedies. It gave us news round. It gave us entertainment. It gave us a magazine show in the form of Blue Peter twice a week. On Saturdays, we were given entertainment on a Saturday morning. We had Doctor Who, which was not children's television, but we had that as well. We had an entertainment drama on a Sunday. They catered for the young people. And that's why most of us, our age group, although some of them are proving me wrong, are saying we had Jack and Nori, wonderful classic television, didn't we, guys? And then they got rid of all that. But what happened with all that stuff? We devoted ourselves to the BBC because they were there for us every day, Monday to Friday. They were brilliant back in those days, and they gave us all this quality. So we became BBC Youth. So when it came to a time when we would get our own TV, we'd been told you have to have a TV license. None of us questioned it. We just went, okay, that's the way it is, and it's worth every penny. That's fine. Now they question it, and now these kids don't do it because, as I said the other night, they've got things on here. They've got various platforms. They're not really watching the BBC for whatever reason. They've got all the streaming. The world has changed. The license fee is on life support. It's going to go within the next 10, 15 years. That's my personal theory. So anyway, getting back to this, that's why I think they are besotted with making sure that these young kids are coming in. And I think that's why they're making awful shows, including Doctor Who, which they think, these adults think, these youngsters are going to like Minority. But here we go. These are what I've been given. This is the BARB averages, +7 consolidated BARB averages, allegedly. I will get this confirmed. I only got this through before the show, so I'll get this confirmed. So for Series 13, the 16 to 34-year-olds were 723K. And Series 13 under 16-year-olds were 340K. Okay, so that's a total of 21.4% of the total audience. So 723,000 was 16 to 34s. So what we're looking at that here now is possibly he's alleging that that's going to increase. So bear that in mind for when we actually find out that figure on this particular one. Because what's this now? 14, 15?
14.
This is 14.
14. 14, 14 or 1, whichever you...
What we'll do with this is that we've got here 723,000 16 to 34-year-olds, 21.4% of a total audience altogether. We'll get this down on a special graphic and stuff. We'll try and find a new one up, and then we'll compare the two. How's that for you? But at the moment, they're saying that it's been massively successful. It says here that the current figures suggest to show that the youthful audience is pretty much at the same level as the last Chibnall series. So 16 to 34-year-olds, 723K.
But that's definite spin. The youth may be watching it in that small amount, but no one else is. I mean, who are the rest of the people watching then?
Well, it's repeats, isn't it? It has to be.
That's not growth either.
No, it's not growth. It's not sustainable. And we'll know for sure when season 2 starts as well, won't we? You know, about if it goes down again. That's what they'll be dreading, of course, because you can imagine if they come back for series 2, which I reckon will be on in January. If they come back to that and it goes down again, can you imagine what's going to happen to them? They are going to be absolutely livid, aren't they? They're going to be very worried. So that's why they're going to want. I'm speculating now again, everybody. That's why they're going to want season 3 commissioned now, aren't they? They're going to want it commissioned as soon as possible. Darren, nice to see you. He's spinning the ratings right round, as a certain 80s song goes. Oh, God bless him. Absolutely. Let's have a look at that. And
it's the arrogance as well, though, isn't it? It's the arrogance that thinks that it won't be seen through. Yeah. That it's not so blatantly wrong that we won't get it. It's ridiculous. I think he just thinks I'm Russell T Davies. Therefore, we know he thinks he can't be questioned or challenged, but he thinks we'll just believe everything he says. And, you know, he would hate having a conversation like this because he would be getting challenged and he wouldn't be able to back up what he was saying. It'd be quite funny. It'd be good to tell you that.
At least be a fly on the wall there at that meeting. That'd be interesting, yes.
Well, I would like to know we're not going to know, are we? I would like to know if there have been, and I'm sure there must have been meetings so far. Even if they're having a break, even if they're on holiday, they must have been having online meetings or phone calls, maybe even WhatsApp messages or texts or whatever. Because whatever they do here, they must understand this is a serious issue they've got. This is a problem.
Yeah.
Really
can I raise? I think both, but we were going to do this, but I dug out a book of mine. This is the Third Doctor Handbook, and this is a book, folks, in case you're wondering what it is. And there's actually in here
pages in it.
There's pages and everything. They're full. This is a very old book, but it's got listings in here of ratings of this is from the Pertwee era, and this makes me laugh. If this premise of continuing to count ratings actually makes a difference, because this is incredible. The Demons got, for the first episode in 1971, got 9.2 million. That was repeated a few months later, and it got 10.5. So that's the 20 million for
that's
the Demons.
The power of word of mouth, isn't it? That's word of mouth. So that was a great one.
That's incredible. And Day of the Daleks, likewise, got 9.8 for the first episode, then 7.4 for an omnibus version later on. So that's again like 15 million for Day of the Daleks, and then sort of 20 million for the Demons. So if that counts,
does it give anything for the Sea Devils? Because it had that impromptu repeat, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's got the original, bizarrely, the original episode of part 1 of the series got 6.4, but I think there's a blackout went around the UK at that point. So that
it was that time, wasn't
it? Recap of part 1, I think. So eventually got, I think, part 2 at 9.7, but the repeat in 1972 got 8.7. And then the unscheduled one got 4.6, but no one knew it was on.
Amazing.
So there you are.
Yeah.
And it was during Grandstand, which, although it was a BBC staple, it was never a high ratings winner. Grandstand. It was very niche because it would show things like, it was never sort of like the major sports. It
went up and down depending what people were interested in, because it catered for everybody if you're outside the UK. It was a Saturday afternoon show. It started at 12 in the afternoon. It went on till around about 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and it showed, because the BBC showed all the sports back in their day. It lost the majority of them when the competitors started to take up. So just to put it in context, so that was a big show, Grandstand. It went for what? Oh God, it went for 20, 30 years.
It went for a long time.
But there was they lost all the sports, basically.
There was never live football, so they didn't have that because they weren't allowed to show football at 3 p.m. It was just match of the day that Saturday evening. But it was things like horse racing, maybe a rugby match and things like that.
Five Nations rugby every year.
Yeah. Athletics, when the athletics were on. But people would dip in and out to whichever sport they wanted to. So the BBC were always very happy with that, the ratings for that, obviously, because they were up and down. They would say, well, that sport's popular. And it gave birth eventually to what we now know as the Department of BBC Sport.
Yeah.
So
Sea Devils 9, 8, and 4. That's 21 million.
Oh,
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. So I looked at Genesis of the Daleks. So that obviously had an original broadcast of 6 parts, and that ranged from 8.5 to 10.7 million. But then it had the omnibus repeat in the December of 75. That got 7.6 million. You then had an omnibus edition, which was divided into 2, which got 4.9 and 5 million. That was in 1982. Then it got another showing on BBC 2 in 1993, and that got between 2 and 2.3 million per episode.
And that
And then
wasn't
there
on
was
the main channel either. It was on BBC Two.
BBC Two, yeah.
That's
That-
a
and
good,
that's-
good
so-
figure.
So for context, 2 million, 2.3 million on BBC Two is around about where this current series is being watched now.
It's interesting, isn't it, how you've given examples there of the success of repeats for our beloved show, sometimes decades apart, how word of mouth through the United Kingdom, through the great British public, was important for the Pertwee repeats, for example. Oh, did you see that one? Oh, you've got to watch it now because that was brilliant. It was really scary. I can imagine that happening with the Demons, for example. So more people coming to watch that on a good time to do it as well. Whereas these days, people don't even talk about the blooming show.
Oh.
Just a very important point here from the chat that I want to address. This is from Ken. Nice to see you, Ken Reihard. There are no ads on the BBC, correct? Correct. So why do the ratings matter? Because the BBC is funded by the British taxpayer. It's our national broadcaster. So the ratings matter because we want to know where our money's going to, quite frankly, for those of us that, well, those people that are still paying a TV license fee. But it's hugely important for the BBC because they have to justify to the license fee payer of the UK their output. Now, the BBC now is actually slightly arrogant, more so than it ever has been before, and they think it's their duty to preach, in my opinion, to the BBC, to the British public, which is why a lot of people are moving away from the BBC. They can't afford to do that. If they want to continue, if the BBC wants to continue around in the way it is just now, they have to get the public on side. It's not happening because they are losing figures every week. And Doctor Who is an example of that, an example of their DEI policy, their agenda, their political beliefs. None of that should ever be in the BBC. And yet it's all come in the last, 10 years at least. It's shocking. But I hope that answers your question, Ken. It's important. The ratings matter because the British public pay for the channel. The whole of the BBC, everything to do with the BBC except studios, which has to earn its money. Hope that's answered your question there. Thank you for joining us. Lots of you in the chat here tonight on Who's Views. Absolutely fantastic to see you all. Keep your comments coming. Domgo is saying to us here, if the BBC wants to show this pig's will, they'll show it regardless of ratings. Guys, what do you think about that? Because we've just said here it's important. I'm not sure I agree with Domgo there. I think everything has a day here, and there's a point where somebody somewhere will have to say, "What's
Enough's
the point
enough."
of money? Yeah, what's the point?
Yeah.
What is the point if nobody's watching it? If it gets to 1.9, which is my usual rating in the ratings game, I think somebody somewhere has to say, "You book your ideas up or you're off." Surely.
Well,
I think if sorry, Paul, go on.
No, carry on. It's fine. You carry on. It's fine.
I was just going to say that I'm sure that if there's people pitching, and I'm sure they have people pitching to them all the time because they obviously need content. If people are pitching to them a program or a concept or whatever, and the BBC come back and say, well, that might only get 4 or 5 million, is it worth our time? They will throw straight back at them, well, you're putting that stuff on prime time and it's getting 2 million. And you're quite happy with that. So why are you knocking us at potentially getting 4 or 5? So they will get pressure from that side as well. And quite rightly so. I think, they can't have, like we know that in the 80s, they've put it up against Coronation Street when it was getting 17, 18 million viewers. And it still came out respectable. And yet they cancelled it. So what about now? It's that they have to show at some point some consistency. And at the end of the day, they have to run that as a business. And I don't think they're going to get an extension of money from Disney. So they're going to have to fund it themselves and they won't be able to. Because as sure as hell aren't going to sell any of the merchandise. None of the plonkers that they market it to buy merchandise anyway.
No. Do you know I said that today because today, hello and welcome to Madman in the Box. It's nice to see you. I hope people can help you in the chat with that one, with that comment you've got there. It's nice to see you. And hello to Woodhouse122 is joining us saying, whoops, late to the show. Where have you been? Where have you been, Rory? RTD is starting to get desperate now, he says. Oh, I think he is, and that's what we're looking at here. We've got some more graphics coming for you in a second from Bedweir's analysis. So today, of course, the BBC announced the latest BBC books that we've spoken about on Merchandise Paradise. You've got the usual November book in homage to the Peter Haining classics, I guess, but that's just money earners. They're not really. You've got the annual and the Target books, of course, are out there. The alleged Target, all those are out there. So it's all been released. They're all.
Well, the annual I like to call a pamphlet now. It's very, very thin, don't you think?
Yeah, for $9.99 recommended retail price. But I went onto the social media there saying, you basically told the fans, paraphrase myself because I can't remember what it said. You called us for everything and now you want our money up it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's exactly what it is. who's going to buy? There isn't an audience big enough to just sustain any of that merchandise.
I think that maybe that's why they're trying to protect it with the figures, because they want to make money from it, but they've stupidly cocked it up allegedly. That's the thing. So
Also, they'll want good figures to show potential licensees or the companies that have taken a license out already to produce the merchandise. And these are the only things we're seeing so far confirmed are BBC-led products, i.e. BBC Books with Penguin, the big ones there, or anything to do with audio, the safe ones that are in-house, as it were. We haven't seen anything from CO, Character Options. We haven't seen anything from any new ones. We haven't seen any of the new alleged 15th Doctor stuff. It's all very interesting. Oh, I'm going to X-Files territory here, and I shouldn't. But there we go.
well, that is a good series, yeah. So,
Well, it was.
I just want to go back to the question about the ratings and why they're important.
Please.
Now, a few years ago, the BBC actually scrapped what used to be the controller position for BBC One and BBC Two, and their whole purpose was to deliver a channel that was popular, and they were responsible for scheduling programs that would get them an audience. I'm interested to know how the scheduling happens now, to be brutally honest, because if you are looking at Doctor Who and thinking, oh, well, it's not getting as much viewership as whatever's on ITV or, something else, who's making that decision?
Well, it's even more complicated now, of course, because it's a partnership. Because I was thinking about this, actually, when it comes to that. Traditionally, BBC One would order its own shows, right? So it would just say, oh, we'll renew Doctor Who because that fills in 24, 26 weeks. And then it's been going like that until recently.
Yeah.
Now the BBC still would order. So if BBC One turns round and says, we're not putting in an order for Doctor Who, it depends entirely on the production deal, because BBC Studios now own Doctor Who to produce Doctor Who. Yeah. They've entered into a partnership only with Bad Wolf and a distribution partnership with Disney Plus. So if BBC One is the main element, turn around and say, we don't want it anymore, surely the deal falls flat.
Well, this is where it gets murky, because if the BBC themselves are not putting money into Doctor Who, it is purely BBC Studios and it is Disney who are putting the money in, plus Bad Wolf, obviously, because they've got to invest in the product as well. Then this is where we might fall into the category of, well, Doctor Who's going to go iPlayer only, or it's going to be a DVD exclusive released by BBC Studios. If it gets to a point where the viewing figures for Saturday night are so low that it doesn't justify the slot on Saturday, then it might move to BBC Two. It might move to another slot. It might go earlier in the day where, it's opposite sport and, nobody's going to really pay it much attention. These are the kind of things that could happen if these ratings continue to trickle downwards.
Totally.
Anything's possible.
Yeah. Well, anything is possible because we don't know the ins and outs of the deal, and we shouldn't necessarily. It's a private business, it's a private deal. We don't need to know.
But because it's not BBC One that are pushing it, so it's now open to BBC Studios and Disney to see how they're going to handle it.
Well, Disney as a distribution. I mean, they may get told by Disney, BBC Studios and BBC Studios and Bad Wolf may get an order from Disney Plus, which means that it might go to Disney Plus in the UK. I doubt it. Yeah. I can't see the BBC ever releasing this product, and it is a product. I can't see them ever relinquishing it fully because it's a hit for BBC One. They know that. It might not be now, but as I said the other night, always goes up and down, this show. It goes in and out of fashion. And right now, it's out. But, in my opinion, I can't see the BBC ever saying, we're going to relinquish the full responsibility of this show to somebody else. That's never going to happen. No. Can I just say hello as well before we move on to you, Paul? Hello and welcome to Who's Views. Isis Ho 33. Nice to see you. Welcome to Who's Views. They've already filmed the next season, right? Right. That means they can't course correct for a few years to come, even if they wanted to. Correct. It would mean a lot of expensive reshootings for series 2, or very clever editing, or very short episodes. And I was saying this last year. The danger is if they were filming back to back, if season 1 is a failure, ta-da, then season 2 will be as well, because the arrogance has gone through the filming of the whole thing. So they've filmed it basically like the old 13, 14 episodes they used to do, all in one block with a little holiday in the middle.
Yeah.
And it's all being written in the same vein of, oh, aren't I brilliant and aren't I fabulous? And oh, the public of the world and the great British public need to be told this. But good point, Isis Ho. Yeah, nice to see you. Go on, Paul.
Well, I was going to say about your reference to Disney. They're not just a streaming platform. They've interfered with the show. You can see that from interviews with Russell and giving them notes and stuff. So they're not just giving them money and saying carry on with it. They are, I think, interfering with the content. So they are putting their tuppence worth in, shall we say. So it's not just, oh, look, there's a mouse behind you.
What? There's no surprise there at all, is there?
So those evil mice are at it again. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah. It happens all the time, doesn't it, with them? We see it from all... I mean, we're as fans, no matter what franchise we're after, we're all in the same boat. And we share the same pain, because these people have come in with agendas, with things they want to say, push them into our worlds, which we don't need them in anyway, and ruined it for everybody because they're after the new audience.
I mean, if Russell's already got his agenda to start with, and they're adding to it, then it's all, it's kind of... It's
totally. Yeah.
So.
I mean, we knew from those rants he was going on around about 2022, 2023, whenever it was. I think it was 2022, when he was going off on these rants. I thought, oh, that's going in the show. That there's no way that he's not going to talk about it. And we've had that confirmed in his own interviews. Data is saying to us here, aren't the BBC making some cash with the collector edition Blu-rays? BBC Studios might be, the BBC won't.
It's interesting. I wonder when they brought when Chibnall started and they did the first series with Jodie, they decided not to have anything in it that was connected to the classic series or the previous shows. And then they got a lot of flack from fandom saying this was not very interesting. And then they changed it and brought lots of things back. I would wonder and question whether they might do the same thing with if we get a season 3, because obviously season 2 is already in the can, as you said, JT. So they can't really change it now, but they might change it for 3 if they get a third chance. Possibly.
It's possible, but it's interesting, but I don't think so. I BBC Studios, I think there's this whole thing about, oh, we're working with Disney. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh my God. And I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. BBC Studios need to grow a couple. And this is your show. This is your franchise. It's a 61-year-old.
I have to say that's problematic, GT, to do that, I'm afraid.
Very probably, yeah. But this is a 61-year-old piece of British television history that you are the custodians of. And you're messing it up in my eyes. You are absolutely messing it up because you are not securing it for generations of the future, because the generations you're panning to now are not going to continue. They will grow up, hopefully, eventually, or society will tell them, you need psychological help or whatever's going to help. So they're not going to be following all this stuff that's in those scripts. And I think BBC Studios need to get over themselves and realize that they can be quite powerful and a production force, a proper production force, and turn around and say, we've got this program. This is as big as Star Trek, and get on with it and get the right people into it, rather than looking at someone who's been, as we've alleged in the last few shows, writing the same guff for 25 years.
I would expect a massive charm offensive whenever Series 2 comes out, where they will try and course correct and say, this is for everyone. This is, this is for all the fans back in the classic era who, this is still the same. I think they will, having driven that wedge in so hard for the pre-Space Babies promotion, I think they'll think, oh, we need to get anyone and everyone to watch this now because we're in real trouble. I can see that happening.
They kind of tried that with I think Julie Gardner and Jane Trancher. They were doing interviews. They were saying much, as you were saying, Bidwea, about everyone must watch it, it's for everyone. And then Russell and Shooty just shot the mouth off and killed it.
Yeah. And it's all about the agenda again with them, isn't it? It's all about the TQ cult messaging. That would be interesting. And obviously we're going to be looking at all that when it happens, because I reckon it's going to happen sooner rather than later, because we've got the Christmas episode coming up as well. So we'll have Stephen Moffat added into the mix. So he's obviously writing the Christmas one. So he's going to be in there a little bit more as well. So we're going to have Russell, we're going to have Shooty, we're going to have Stephen Moffat, we're going to have the guest artists from the Christmas special, who I can't remember who it is. obviously because I'm not interested. But we're going to be dealing with all that as we go up to that, because I reckon that's going to come sooner rather than later, because now we're going to get the aftermath of these episodes. And we're now approaching very, very quickly. It's 24 minutes past 9 here as we're broadcasting live. In the next few hours, of course, here in the UK at midnight, the leg end of Ruby Slippers drops on the iPlayer. And for the rest of you in the world, it drops at a sensible time. So that's going to be out. But imagine if these next two, the big grand finale that we are going to be seeing shortly, he's been making such a fuss of, flops.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Did you see the synopsis, but there's a VHS tape that's apparently found from Pertwee Zero or something, apparently. Yeah.
Oh God, really? Well,
Yeah.
we'll deal
Yeah,
with that.
That'll be education for the kids. This is the VHS. Remember?
But did Pertwee have them? No. Listen to this. Darren Singh was here, guys.
It's Pertwee's links to camera for the Pertwee years.
It could be that.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Let's watch.
Could it end up on BBC Three? Is Darren is asking. I don't think the main show could. I don't think Doctor Who could, because that would be really swallowing a bitter pill. That would be really admitting to people like us defeat.
But if that's the audience they want,
could, Darren, I think the spin-off could.
No, but if the audience they want is that 16 to 24 demographic who they hope are watching BBC Three, I think they'll put it on BBC Three.
I don't.
All they get is 600,000. That'll be it.
Yeah, I really don't think that. I think they'd rather take.
Might be getting that on BBC One.
I don't think. I think BBC One has to have Doctor Who in whatever form it's in. That's the main flagship channel of the BBC still to this day. Doctor Who was born on BBC One. It's always been a BBC One drama. I don't think because of falling ratings it will go to BBC Three. I think they'll stick it out because that's the way they work. We're going to be stubborn. That's the way it's going to be. But I do think alleged spin-offs will skip BBC One and go straight to Three and the iPlayer. That's what I think. We're going to know about that at some point if they ever announce this blooming special. What we got here as well. Could the show go to iPlayer, this Digby? Yes, I think it absolutely. I think the spin-offs could, and I think there'll be a change in how they do this coming up with Christmas and then into the new year. But I think we're going to see series 2 in January or February or March. I think we'll get it earlier in 2025 than we have done this year. And Richard is saying to us here, RTD is worried that series 2 is exactly the same, if not worse, than the last series. If they hate this, they will hate what's still to come. There is no audience for series 2. I'm saying that right now, live here on the show. There's no audience for it. And Lisa
you know
is
what you were saying. Sorry,
you
know what you were saying, JT, about there'll be a charm offensive. You did so. Was it Bedweir? I do apologise, but about a charm offensive before series 2, because of all the damage that they've done so far. I think what they probably will do that, but I think what they'll be not taking into account is that it's not just the damage done by them being a bunch of numpties and shooting their mouths off. It's coming on the back of the years of Jodie Whittaker and her lot doing it as well.
Which is right into the break.
A cumulative of almost 7 years at this point, and they aren't going to fix that with just one charm offensive before what probably will be a shitty series 2 following a shooty series 1.
I totally agree.
That's a fantastic tongue twister you've got there, you have to say.
But I totally agree with what Ian's saying there as well, because it has come off the back of the Chibnall era. The most spectacular fail of a series until this one, which is even worse. This is even worse. But now they've gone out full right to absolutely. They've alienated everybody here of the fan base, even those of us that were trying to come back. They've through, as you were saying, Paul, certain people shooting their mouths off, telling us to go and touch grass, making the Doctor, taking him completely out of the character that we've all known and loved and bought into for decades. So why would anybody want to come back? Darren is asking us here as well, is any license fee payers' money involved in the show now? This still means public accountability. Now, from what I can tell, and again, it's alleged, it's what I have been told, yes, there is, because the BBC network, BBC actually put some money into it as well via studios. Now, that would make sense. It wasn't as much as it usually is. I don't know. Let's try and look into it. It's very difficult now to find things out because Bad Wolf and BBC Studios don't need to tell us anything they don't want to because it's in their hands and they are not accountable to the public.
If it's being screened on BBC One, then they will have contributed something to have it on BBC One. Otherwise, it would be BBC Studios with free license to put it where they want.
And that's a great point. And that's what BBC Studios do, because they do that. You can see BBC Studios dramas on the independent networks. I believe they do some stuff for American networks, or have tried to do that, or have done that before. So yes, that's what they could do. They could, even if they wanted to, do what they did with Strictly Come Dancing and other formats, and sell the format to each country. So they had their own version. Now, they don't want to do that with Doctor Who, of course.
Oh, God, no. Have you seen some of the American comedy versions of classic British sitcoms? Oh, please,
well,
no.
yes, exactly. And it's something they want to avoid with Doctor Who. They want one Doctor Who, and it has to be the British one. So hopefully that's sorted out there. Would it be bad form to root for the Daleks for a few seasons? Asaiho, we've talked about that. They're problematic, mate. And it'd be very, very unlikely for them to come back, because they are just a great big bubble of hate in a tin can who kill everything. That's a bit of a problem.
And they have spherical objects as well.
Yeah, we have a lot of you in the chat this evening. Thank you for joining us. We really, really appreciate it, don't we, guys? So keep your chats coming on. We are still, we're aiming to here as well. This is RTD baby. I don't believe for a second that he's getting his strings pulled. I think he does do a lot of the dictating. I'm really, really, I
think though, if Disney he did say in a couple of interviews they've given him notes and stuff, and I'm surprised if he can't be controlled. Disney are doing something to try and control him a little bit. Otherwise, why would you accept a note and say, well, why would you go with that? You know,
well, there's also that element where there's also that element, I believe, Paul, that yes, he is the big supremo. He's got himself in that position now. This is RTD Who. It's not our Who. It is. It's all about him, isn't it? Yeah. But he's also thinking, I would think, keep the paymasters happy. And where can that take me on in a career? Maybe that's what, it's all alleged. That's what I'm assuming. That's what I'm thinking about. Terrified Monk is saying Disney needs to put this series into the vault and throw away the key. Well, you never know, that might happen.
Well, remember what happened to the Batgirl movie that got made and then canned because it was apparently allegedly really bad. So who knows?
And apparently they got money from it as well. Tadge Travels is saying, the Daleks will be back for season 3 if there is a season 3. Yeah, if there is a season 3. And Paul Ashworth is saying to us, a third series needs a fresh start, an RTD and Shooty Gom. Dalek, I love you, is joining us. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for your email in the week. Really appreciate it. Nice to see you. And Mark is saying to us, our resident poet laureate here, Paul is 100% correct. The deal was with Disney branded TV. You take 100 million from Disney and then you're their biatch. Yes. Okay, then. So we've got more. Thank you for all your comments. Keep them coming. I'm trying to keep up with you, but keep them coming. Keep them coming. Kitty Roo's joining us here as well. So nice to see you, Kitty Roo. Thank you for joining us. Lovely, lovely, lovely. And Talons is saying to us, don't they have to use the Daleks at least once per series? Not
anymore, is it?
No. Not anymore. From what we believe, the deal was for so many years and the deal is now out. I don't know, because again, I've asked and I'm not getting the answers as quickly as I used to. But I think the deal stopped in 2023.
I'm going back to someone's comment about Shooty and Russell leaving. I was expecting Shooty to do 2 years, then go and use it as a alleged springboard for his career. But he's claiming now he's around for a while, which is interesting.
Well, they'll all say that now, won't they? Yes. They'll say that. But he is in a sense, because he's done his first 2. So actually, in the public's eye, if there was a public watching it, he is, because he's done this year, Christmas Day, and next year. So he's around for a while.
Yeah.
Twist, twist, spin, spin.
And made no impact whatsoever, I don't think. Well, not the right impact from me.
Not the right impact from what we can tell. Right, so we've got back to bed with your slides. We've still got a couple more to go. What's this one?
Okay, so this is the 28 days that we have in totality. So as I mentioned, the first rating plus 28 was last Christmas, and that line takes us all the way to the Devil's Cord, which is the latest one that we've had. So you can see first Capaldi Christmas special, where we start at just above 8 million. Decent number for a Christmas episode.
Yes.
Tails off and we get a couple of peaks. So again, around the 2 Capaldi Christmas specials, Return of Dr. Mysterio and whatever the one before that one was, the Husbands of River Song, that one. And then it trickles along, and then we get another spike when Capaldi leaves, or sort of half a spike when Capaldi leaves. And then the big spike that we can see there is Jodie Whittaker's first episode.
Yeah. Which is ironically the one where all the fans of a certain element of fandom were going, "Oh, the series is saved. The series is saved." You
Yeah.
know, remember?
Yeah.
But then it cannot
about 5
maintain
minutes.
that initial interest, and then it trickles. It does slightly better. And that first series, we'll see in another graphic a bit later on, does reasonably well, and it is better than the numbers they have been posting for Capaldi's years. But unfortunately, it deteriorates all the way down until we get the very lowest point, which is Legend of the Sea Devils. Power of the Doctor, we start to see a bit of a recovery, regeneration episode, etc. BBC's anniversary, all that sort of stuff.
Yep.
And then we get a nice new peak of the 3 60th anniversary episodes. I'm not going to call them specials.
David Tennant.
And then the Church on Ruby Road, which is another Christmas Day episode, before we plunge back down to Space Babies and the Devil's Cord. So you
I
can
like
see
that.
that red
I know that one
trend
plunge.
line.
Plunge is good. Yeah.
Plunge, yeah. So you
Plunge,
can see that
yeah.
red trend line in the middle is
Yeah.
is downwards.
There you go. That makes it very clear, I think, doesn't it? You've got the linear rating there in red, as you're saying, and then you've got the figures there in the blue. Interesting, because okay, regeneration episode that is going to garner more. I don't think it will this time round if it ever happens again. The 3 Tennant specials, it's David Tennant, who at that point the public had a thing for. They actually welcomed him and Catherine Tate back. That will never be repeated now. We know too much now. It's never going to happen. The British public, or a significant number of British public, as well as Doctor Who fans, have fallen out of love with Tennant now. I think that's going to be an issue for him in the future. And then, of course, we see it. A healthy audience, as we all know, for Church on the Ruby Road. That's fine. But that's where the decisions are made. The decisions are made there. Don't like him. Didn't like it. Too fluffy. Oh, there's Goblet, whatever it's going to be. And then they didn't come back for Space Babies.
Yes,
And a lot of fans didn't either.
As I say, those are all the episodes that have plus 28 ratings for them. And you can see the peaks are Christmas episodes, new series, specials with the exception of Legend of the Sea Devils, which frankly was a random place anyway. So, you're seeing those things that create peaks, but to see that drop off from Church on Ruby Road, which again is a Christmas episode, and we're getting lower than Jodie Whittaker's first series, it really has not found an audience.
It hasn't. No, it hasn't.
Even over 28 days.
It will be very, very... we've got the 2 episodes coming up now, that are coming up very shortly to round this version of Disney Who off. Then we've got the Christmas one coming back. Now, that is going to be very, very interesting as well, because will the public go back to that? Now, bearing in mind that in the UK, what happens in the UK on Christmas Day traditionally is that we're all trapped in houses with families arguing and throwing sprouts at each other. And all we do is watch the telly. That's a traditional element, isn't it, really? I think we all have that in common. Now, Doctor Who this year is going to be either surrounded, either before or after Doctor Who, by the return of Wallace and Gromit, as well as a couple of other things they haven't announced. You've also got Gavin and Stacey, a big comedy, coming back around about the 9-10 o'clock mark that night as well. So the BBC have tried to shake up what is very much a very tired presentation on Christmas Day, which has been about the same programming schedule for the last 10 years. I can guarantee you Mrs. Brown's nonsense is in there at some point.
I hope not.
But that's going to be very... Will this version of Doctor Who be watched on that day, or will the audience just not bother, considering that Christmas Day is actually, it should be very high ratings because we're trapped? Or will people go elsewhere, like your Netflix?
You can say the same thing for during COVID when Jodie was doing it, because no one, you couldn't go out, you had to, you were trapped, so but nobody watched it, so
no, they went and watched the other side, didn't they? Or
exactly.
They watched anything on Sky or
watched
the
on. That's when people started doing streaming platforms. Exactly. But
and their audience as well, that they want to pander to, found shows on the Tube of Who.
Yeah. I wonder if the Christmas special this year, if they'll drop it at midnight on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, and then show it like they're doing at the moment, the same pattern.
I think that's going to be part of the Disney thing.
So that'll kill it as well, because I think people aren't watching it live. It's
I think that will happen too. I think it will drop at midnight on Christmas Eve, Christmas morning, however you want to look at that, because of the deal with Disney, who will have to put it across the rest of the planet at a decent time. But we've also got this one from you.
Yes. So some people argue that the relative chart position is a better reflection of success or failure because it is reflective of what other people are watching across the week, or in this case, 28 days worth, and is more reflective of people watching television generally. Okay, so I've taken a selection of all these episodes and their relative chart positions. Now, apologies, it is kind of in the reverse order. So at the top, Eva the Daleks, which was a Whittaker special, only hit 22 in the chart.
And that was Christmas Day, wasn't it? Eva the Daleks, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, was it New Year's Day?
New Year, beg your pardon. So New Year's Day, beg your pardon. Yeah. So yeah.
And I've also sort of color coded a few of these. So the light blue ones that you see next are series finales, which you think would do pretty well. But for Capaldi, they were down, 15 and 17 respectively. And then series openers in red. So Capaldi series openers for The Magician's Apprentice and The Pilot were, 9th in the chart. Really pale in comparison to, again, that first Jodie Whittaker episode, which hit number 1 in the chart over 28 days. Massive success. That's a really strong success. And you can see the ones at the bottom of that list, which are the high placing chart positions. So the Saranga Conundrum, Arachnids in the UK, Rose of the Ghost Monument, everything from that first Jodie Whittaker series were placing number 4, number 3 in the charts over 28 days. The purple ones are Space Babies and the Devil's Chord. So they're kind of in the middle. So even when you think, oh, well, the chart position is the best way of reflecting whether these episodes are going down well or not, by how many people are watching it relative to what other people are watching on other channels across the 28-day window, it's kind of in the middle. It's sort of 6 for the Devil's Chord and 9 for Space Babies. It's not hitting the heights that Jodie Whittaker's first series did in that respect. So I mean, again, it's just to give another side of the argument that I've been presented with about the chart positions, and they are relative. Again, we've mentioned before now, the chart positions for these next 2 episodes are going to be severely hampered by the Euros, which has kicked off. Sorry, Scotland. It has kicked off this evening.
How are we doing with that? Give us an update on that for anybody that's interested.
Germany are 4-0 up, and Scotland had a man sent off. But they did just have a 5th goal ruled out for offside. So
absolutely outrageous.
They'll be fighting in Germany tonight. So.
Oh dear.
I was going to watch it after this.
Sorry. Sorry, Paul. Ian,
No.
sorry about that.
It's nice goals, in fairness. But another thing I've learned is that the second half of the Bridgerton 3rd series has dropped on Netflix. Now, earlier in the series of Doctor Who's chart ranking was pushed down a little bit by 2 episodes of Bridgerton hitting Netflix. So that's another thing that's going to contribute to hampering Doctor Who's chart position for the finales.
And that's ironic, considering that they were put that Rogue was Doctor Who. Well, Doctor Who in Bridgerton, and they were mentioning Bridgerton, desperately trying to get the Bridgerton audience to watch Doctor Who, which didn't work, did it? 2.11 million overnight. They've got better things to do, So that's dropped in the last, either today or the last few days. So when we come to look at the figures and the chart positions for the leg end of Ruby Sunday, it'll be interesting to see how well Bridgerton does in relation to that episode of Doctor Who. So make sure you've subscribed to the channel here at Who's Views. Make sure you rung that bell to get notifications. We will let you know when we're going to go live with all that details. Don't forget that we do have our review of The Legend of Ruby Slippers coming up on Sunday, live at 8 o'clock. I'll be mentioning that again very shortly, where we will deal with the overnights, and then Bedweer, who doesn't watch this series, He'll be back with us next week. Nearly stony ground. He'll be with us next week to give us all the facts when we get all that coming in as well. I want to say hello to Connor, who's joining us. Hello, Connor Medlin. The only thing legendary about the Legend of the Sea Devils is it's the only episode in Doctor history the BBC wanted nobody to watch, and they buried it, did they?
Yeah.
Did they?
It's an episode. It's a bloody awful episode. That really is.
And they buried it. They didn't do any publicity or much for it. Wow, that's interesting. I never watched it, Connor, as you know, so I didn't care anyway.
I'm gonna say something which is purely speculation, or I'm gonna label it as speculation. But there was a much longer cut of the
What's that?
Yeah.
Because the actual final episode was 45 minutes long, I think, or 48. Should have been an hour. There's at least 50
it was a 60-minute version, and
they haven't put that on the DVD or the Blu-ray or whatever they do.
No, they haven't. No.
Must have been awful then, mustn't it?
Because you'll agree, those who've seen it will agree the editing of it is really erratic. That's part of it. The pacing really odd. It's really, really odd. You can tell.
I never knew that. That's very interesting. Yeah. That's very, very telling as well, isn't it? Steve's with us. Hello, Steve Hinley. Remember when the ratings either side of Jodie Sea Devils episode were higher? I remember this as well because I remember laughing. Country File and a repeat of Antiques Roadshow. And I said, well, that says it all, doesn't it? I thought, yeah, because I was laughing at that when I read that in various places.
The only good thing about it, the Sea Devils look great. That's the best thing about it.
Yeah, I've seen that. They do look good. They do look good. Yeah. No credit to, I've forgotten his name. It's gone out of my head now completely. The guy that put them together. Well done, you. And he's a fan as well, isn't he? Thank you, Robert. Of course it is. How could I forget his name, Bedweer? Lovely, lovely, lovely Robert. Stephen Braddock is saying to us here, Wallace and Gromit are going to wipe the floor with Doctor Who, as it's not just an episode, it's a movie-length episode. And of course, it features the return of that classic villain, Feathers McGraw. Very excited.
Wasn't he in last week's episode?
No, he was not. He went to prison and now he's out and he's seeking.
No, that's another bird. I mean, that was the thing.
Oh, right. I say, well, of course. Yeah. I've forgotten the Doctor Who episode already. Neville's with us saying, stands to reason, show it on iPlayer first. Word gets out how bad it is, fewer people watch. I reckon that might have played a part in this version as well, Neville. Mm-hmm. And Komodo, nice to see you as well. Mrs. Brown Boys claiming to be comedy should be prosecuted under the Trade Descriptions Act. I totally agree. Yeah. And why Piers Wenger went out of his way before he left the BBC to commission another 5,000 years of it, I don't know. Was it because he just didn't like the British public? JFO, it's lovely to see you joining us here on Who's Views. BBC Christmas Day 2008, Doctor Who outnumbered Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey. BBC Christmas Day 2024, Doctor Who outnumbered Wallace and Gromit and Gavin and Stacey. That's my point. There's nothing new or fresh. And where's the big entertainment shows like the Morecambe and Wise or the Two Ronnies now? Oh, that's right. You're not allowed to put them on anymore because they're problematic, having a sense of humour.
And they're all dead as well, GT, just to point out.
That would play into it,
took over. And you couldn't do the Generation Game now. You couldn't do those big entertainment shows now because the comedy that we have today, alleged comedy we had today, is woke nonsense. And it usually gets at white people or straight men.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Gladiator special?
There is a Phil would be pleased about that. There is there is a Gladiators Christmas special coming out, but I'm not sure if that's going to be on Christmas Day because Strictly will also be there, of course, predictably. And they're too similar, aren't they? So they may do it on Boxing Day or Christmas Eve or save it for New Year. But yes, there is a special of that coming through. So if you are a fan of the latex, keep your eye out for that. And we've also got
Gladiators is a great example of a show that was for the family and did do well for the BBC on BBC One in the same slot that Doctor Who is in now. Okay, it was slightly earlier in the year. It was in January when traditionally more people were watching television, but that was a good sign of you can get family audience.
I mean, Gladiators came back after 20 years off the air. I don't think it would have mattered what time of year it was put on. The British public took to it. It was entertainment. It's what they wanted. They could sit down and not be preached to. There was a good host in the form of Bradley Walsh, who a lot of you lot will know as well for Doctor Who, and the public came to it, and it did do well. We are going to be looking at that at some point. Bedouin has put that into the mix as well. As an illustration, but Andy is saying to us here, chart positions are meaningless in my eye. It all depends on what is on the other channels. And Lex is saying to us here that allegedly Disney Who has been a big flop on Disney Plus.
That's I think the thing about viewing figures, though, to be a devil's advocate here, if you look at old Doctor Who episodes, and we are slightly biased, in Bedweir's list prior to this program, the War Games was mentioned, and the War Games is a superb episode, but got low viewing figures. Now, it doesn't always qualify that if it's a bad episode or a good episode that it gets high figures, does it?
No.
So,
yeah. Craig Carroll
I'll
is
get my
joining
coat. It's fine.
Craig Carroll is with us as well, saying
Yes,
it's just made it. Nice to see you, Craig. Thank you so much. And Graham Dawson. Hiya, Graham. It's lovely to see you as well. Yes, and you're saying to us here, at least Duck Soup likes the boys. Well done. That's from in the chat there, but I thought it was funny. So thank you for that. Well done. Who else have we got here? Nice to see you all. Craig's giving us the thumb ups there as well. It's a mess where we are right now, though, and as fans, this is embarrassing too, isn't it? I mean, we get a lot of criticism on this show, as predictably we're going to. We all get criticism online as well, from that element of fans that are so protective they can't see the reality because they love the narrative that's going in there. The amount of girls I've had arguments with this year, as well as some pandering men who should know better about the Doctor not being in any way, shape, or form, and how it tropes all over the original classic proper Doctor Who. They don't understand, do they? Because they've only come into it either through 2018 onwards. And I actually had that this week saying, how long have you been watching this show? And she said to me, well, I came in with Jodie. I said, well, get away then. You know, you're 5 minutes old as far as I'm concerned. Go away.
Yeah.
You haven't been watching Doctor Who. That's not Doctor Who. It's been an embarrassing week. Connor is also saying to us here, for some reason, they've put the Doctor Who episode to 6:30 tomorrow because it's longer, I think, where it will clash with the last 10 minutes of football. It was fine at 18:50. It's because it has to finish, Connor, at the same time, and it's 15 minutes longer, I think.
Is it? Oh no! God.
No, it can't be. How long is it running now? 40 minutes, 45 minutes. It's on for 55.
Yeah.
It feels like about 4 hours.
Yeah.
It does actually, painfully so. It's on longer. The Tales of the TARDIS show on BBC4 on Thursday sounds just like a promo clip show for the RTD season. If you're interested in that one, we will not be looking at that in any fondness, not fondness in any particular way. Yeah.
So yeah. Sorry. The BBC are showing. I think it's Italy, Albania, or a game from the Euros. So that's what it's got to finish by 7:20 for coverage of that to start. But yeah, it is a 50-minute slot.
Okay. Again, thanks to Digby. Thank you, Digby Strawbridge. We really, really appreciate all your comments and all your support. And thank you very much for that little present today. Really, really appreciate that. So you have a good weekend. We'll see you again very soon. And the Lady Knightsbridge is here with us as well. Hello, Elizabeth. How are you today? Perhaps the Daleks are refusing to put in an appearance at the moment. The graph suggests there was initially an audience for Jodie as the Doctor, and it ultimately was a missed opportunity. I would agree with that because there was. And they're always going on about us all being ots or ists or phobes or whatever. But no, as Bedweir has shown there, as the stat proves, people were welcoming this change. They were curious about this unnecessary gender change. They came to have a look. Now, had they possibly got an actor in there that could do the part, it may have worked, and it might have been a stumping success, and she might still be there now. Maybe if the stories, when the scripts were even better, maybe if the look of the show was better. I've seen that TARDIS console room. What the hell was that about?
Oh, the console room is horrible.
Awful.
But the whole thing, it didn't support her in any way, Paul, did it? And because she was more of a, again, like Shooty allegedly, she was more of a companion than the Doctor.
Yeah.
This is the whole point now, isn't it?
No,
she didn't have a character.
No.
One thing that I think they did mention the Daleks in the conversation there, that I think Chibnall actually handled the Daleks quite well in the three specials that she had. Yeah, surprisingly.
Well, Tom would agree with you.
Yeah.
I liked Eve of the Daleks. It's one of my Jodie favourites. Okay, good for you. Thank you. Craig is saying to us it's his day off today and he's watching Tom Baker. And
good
why
for you.
not? Which one? Let us know. And Dim Orpin's joining us, guys. Disney Who tries poaching competitors' audiences, ends up looking desperate and promoting competitors' show. There's an element of truth in that, isn't there? You can't deny that one. Richard is saying that he knows they didn't finish editing The Legend of the Sea Devils. What? And then they still put it out. Oh gosh, there's a show in there somewhere. Let's have a look for that.
I had heard that the director on it was quite an experienced director, and I don't know if that had something to do with it. It was a woman, I think, as I remember.
Was it? I don't know anything else.
I don't. I can't remember the director's name, but there was an insinuation that wasn't finished properly. But that could be wrong. I don't know.
Okay. Well, we'll look. Well, there we go. Alien Airplanes, nice to see you. Thanks for joining us as ever. Legend of the Sea Devils is probably the most, if not the second most forgettable episode. Oh dear.
No,
And
it's
I love
very memorable for being very bad.
Yeah.
if you've watched it, Dalek, I Love You is saying to us, Doctor Who is about 24 in the US Nielsen viewing figures chart, and ironically, Bridgerton is number 1. Oh, so they. Oh, yes, of course. So, yeah, so that's not good either, is it, really, for a show that they've put millions in? We've got to remember Disney invested a lot of money and they have to have a return. Surely they have to have a return. I don't know. Chris Graham is saying to us, what shows are Disney doing well? I was upset recently when the Last Man TV series disappeared. I don't know what that is. I was a massive fan of the comics. Oh, I see. It's a Marvel thing. Is it? Sorry, my ignorance is terrible. I don't know what that is. I'm really sorry. Komodo is saying Feathers McGraw is the psycho. That's why you need to be watching him.
Yeah.
You've got to be careful with him, you know. We all love Wallace and Gromit. In fact, I haven't told the guys yet, but I'm actually thinking of doing a review of it here on Who's Views. Would you like to see a Who's Views reviews of the new Wallace and Gromit? Let us know.
Lovely,
Yeah.
I think it might cheer us up at Christmas time if we do a little Christmas spin-off about Wallace and Gromit, because I'm a huge Wallace and Gromit fan. Got Bob Baker to sign all my Wallace and Gromit merchandise. I've got bits and pieces there.
Can we review the Feast of Stephen as well? That'd be fun.
Because, I mean, when Bob was signing all my Wallace and Gromit thing, he was like, oh, God, not another one. God, Justin. God love him. Much missed. Bring back Benny Hill. Bring back Les Dawson. Bring back entertainment, I say. But you're right. That's all on the thing I was saying about Saturday nights and Christmas nights, wasn't it? Yes, says Dalek, I love you. Put that one. Let us know in the comments as well. Should we? Or email us. Let us know. Do you think we should do a Wallace and Gromit review at Christmas time? Ah, look, here's the other Ibrahim. Nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining us. So excited for Wallace and Gromit. So am I. More excited than I am for Doctor Who. I hope they don't muck it up. Oh God, can you imagine if they go woke? I'll be absolutely livid.
Oh.
Have they got someone else to play the Peter Sellers part then?
They must do. They must have a sounder-likey or somebody from Yorkshire.
Yeah.
We all sound the same, don't they, Ian? And
Oh, the outrage.
Yes, the outrage.
Also, yeah.
Jodie was written like Scatty Peggy from Heidi High, says Richard, with a Mork and Mindy inspired outfit.
That's a good description, actually.
That's a very good description, that, isn't it? Yeah.
Somebody write that down, because we will have to use that in something. Not that we're ever going to review that era here, because I'm not going to put myself through all that. Kitty Roo says, bring back Bernard Manning.
Yeah.
And Bernard, we need more people like Joan Rivers and Bernard Manning. I've been saying that to balance it up, you know.
Maybe not Bernard Manning.
Yeah, I mean, but you have to, really, don't you? You've got to balance it up from all the wokery that's going on in alleged entertainment comedy. Bring back the carry-ons. I'm going to say no to that because of what's going on right now. They tried it in '92, big failure. It doesn't really work. I would say leave it where it is as proper British seaside humour, because we're not allowed to get away with it anymore. But we're going to be bringing back the carry-ons very soon on this channel. Oh, we're here. Let's keep in touch. Look at that.
See, I've started. Here we go.
Yes, we've gone off on a tangent now, yeah, with everybody saying to us, yes, please, to doing that one. So we will sort that out. I'll speak to the team and we will do that for you. You can all come and join us.
That's good.
We will do that. See, these ideas have come up with, and then I think later on, oh my God, what are we doing? Right, we've got all that. So listen, that's
stick with me.
It's a great subject here for Doctor Who. It always has been, well, since around about 1985, really, with the ratings. That's the fascination for us. It's all been coming on. But as ever, thank you so much for all that hard work you've done.
Did you want to throw up the pie charts quickly?
Oh yes, that one.
So this is just a really quick one, and people again have a go at us for paying too much attention to the overnight figures. But this highlights once again that the overnights make up 58 and 54% of your plus 28 figure. Wow. So that is why the overnights are important.
Right. So just for clarity, for the naysayers that tune in for us, say that again.
So the reason we pay such attention to the overnight figures is because even with iPlayer being the amazing thing that everyone uses, the plus 28 figures that we now have for Space Babies and the Devil's Cord are predominantly made up of the overnight figure.
There you go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, because that proves the point. That's why it's important, people.
We
Use
rest
the
our
information. Go forth and spread it.
Drop the mic.
That news, that
Yeah.
is. Cheers. Bedwyr, as ever, brilliant work there. Thank you very much for that. We really, really appreciate it. I hope you've enjoyed that. Bedwyr will be back with more ratings analysis very, very soon, whether you like it or not. Yes, so here we are. We are coming up to that bit now where we're going to be plugging relentlessly the next episode of Dr. Disney. Oh, God, why are we bothered? I don't know. But yes, we are going to be here live on Sunday with our review of the leg end of the Ruby Slippers, which starts UK time, 8 o'clock in the evening. Come back and join us. We've got all your favourites in that as well as we look at this latest episode. And we are the judges, us and you. We will decide if this is any good through the scores.
55 minutes.
Scores. 55 minutes of it. Oh, my family are going to hate me. Also, at this point, I'd just like to let you know that please come back and join us in the week. It's up on the channel for you right now, but we've got a summer special coming for you, and it's this one. We're going to go back to proper Doctor Who times, really. Wednesday, the 19th of June, again, 8 o'clock in the evening UK time, as we welcome Dalek Decimus to the channel. We're going to be here talking to him live, as he tells us all about the Dalek invasion UK that's going on at the moment now. So if you don't know anything about the Dalek invasion of UK, come and join us as he tells us all about it. That's something different for us. I'm really excited about that and welcome him to the channel. We've got a few questions for him. And of course, he's happy to take your questions about what's going on. So come and join us for that. Right. This next bit is the usual bit now where we look at all the TV guides in the UK. It takes me a bit of time to do it, so you're getting it. So we're running over time again, but that's because the ratings is a fantastic chat and we've had a great time. So we'll run through these for you. So stay with us. Please stay with us and let us know what you think of what's going on here. And again, thank you for joining us. As we mentioned in our show just a couple of days ago here on Who's Views for Headlines, Ncuti Gatwa made the cover of the Radio Times this week. This is where all this Russell T Davies stuff and 28-day rating stuff came from, this interview they had with him. That was that bit there. Now, it also makes their pick of the day with this picture, where Ruby Sunday gets the same sort of treatment for Millie Gibson there. So that's this. This is the Radio Times, as I say. And we've got this coming up from it as well, where Doctor Who 6:30 on BBC One. So look at this blurb, guys. It has felt as though the series has existed on TARDIS time, like we've jumped through the beginning to the end through the vortex without pausing for breath. The fact that it's only 8 episodes in length has added to that sense of a journey cut short. But the absence of Ncuti Gatwa from
Not
the bulk
short enough.
but the absence of Ncuti Gatwa from the bulk of 2 stories has also left us feeling that there's still much to learn about this Doctor, as well as the relationship with companion Ruby. Writer Russell T Davies, though, has always known how to up the ante in his 2-part season finales, and in part 1, the conclusion of which can be seen next Saturday, we're very much in team-up territory with the Doctor seeking help from his old friends in UNIT. Then there's the plot thread that's been woven throughout this run, namely the relevance of actor Susan Twist turning up in different guises. As we know, there's always a twist at the end, so will this mystery be solved? I'm going to ask, does anyone really care right now? Do you care in the views? Do you guys care?
No.
No.
Certainly the public doesn't, do they? But this, I have to say, gets a lot of coverage in the TV listings magazines. Again, we've got TV Times here, the ITV version of the Radio Times, double spread. Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because this is where they all start to highlight Bonnie, who, of course, spoiler alert, is coming back tomorrow night for these 2 episodes as Mel. It's very interesting.
Some great pictures there, don't you think?
Lovely pictures, actually,
Yeah.
because I was actually realizing when I was looking at all this the other day when I was having a coffee, Mel has now met Dr. 6, 7, David Tennant Mark II, which is like 14, and 15. So she's not done bad for one of the most unpopular characters of the time.
Yeah.
You know, when we look at it, she's up there with Sarah, in a sense, when it comes to that meeting of stuff with Sarah Jane. You know, and she was the pivotal character because she was there at Regeneration as well, even though she missed it because she was unconscious, but she was there. So, you know, it counts. It does count. So this was a nice article. The TV Times goes on to ask this: does Doctor Who feel different compared to when you first appeared in it? To which Bonnie replies, it does. We used to rehearse running up and down corridors, which seems daft now. It always felt like we were a little rep company with Colin or Sylvester and I as the regulars who would welcome everyone in. I think the show is treated with a lot more respect now, too. When we did it, it was regarded as this slightly offbeat, weird show that a small minority of people would watch. Oh, but now it really feels so inclusive, and there's a lot more love for it. There's the words again. Ironic, though, isn't it? It goes on TV Times to ask Bonnie, have you and Millie Gibson, who plays Ruby, swapped stories about your respective companion experiences? To which Bonnie replies, it's very different now to the old days. Back then, all we did was run around, meet monsters, get in the way and say, but doctor. But I was able to say to Millie that you're asking the questions that the audience needs to know the answers to. Otherwise, no one would know what the doctor is doing because it's all in his head. There's Bonnie showing the real story, the real Doctor Who side of stuff there. TV Times then asked her, finally, have you enjoyed this series as a viewer? And as dutiful as ever, Miss Langford said, yes, it started off all jolly, light and fluffy, but then it started to veer in different directions because that's what you can do with sci-fi. What I think is so important about it is that this incredible being, the Doctor, is basically a ray of hope, and that's wonderful. God bless her. God love her. You know what I mean? But she's turned the party line there, isn't she?
I think she has to, doesn't she?
Yeah, especially if she wants to go back to season 2 and 3, because allegedly she's in season 2 as well, because we've seen her on certain shots this year, haven't we? And she wasn't in the outfit she was wearing for these two. Starting to open a can of worms, why don't we? Right, we've got this one here as well from the TV Times. Not the big picture for the pick of the day, but it does get the feature. So it's not their feature of the day, pick of the day for Saturday, and it gets that particular one. They write up, ever since last year's Christmas special, we've been on tenterhooks, wondering what happened the day Ruby's Sunday was born. Really?
Have we?
Yeah. Knowing as we do that she was found as a baby on the doorstep of a church, and that's going to be news to a lot of people. Finally, in this week's episode, the leg end of the Ruby Slippers, the Doctor and Ruby team up with their friends at Unit, including ex-companion Mel, played by Bonnie Langford, to get some answers about that fateful night all those years ago. But an ancient evil is unleashed in the process, and since this is the first half of a two-part finale, expect a major cliffhanger. Why can't I get excited about this? Is it just me?
No, it's not just you.
You just
It's
don't
not just
feel
you, no.
drawn into it.
No.
You don't feel infused at all.
No, I'm not. I don't feel infused at all.
Well,
about
apart
it.
from Bonnie, you don't care about any of the characters. That's part of the problem. So,
yeah. Domgo is saying to us here, I remember the shills worried that iPlayer wouldn't be able to handle 5 million streams at midnight. Really? Very strange, aren't they? Oh, like, yeah. It all crashed because of the popularity. Anthony's Parkinson saying to us, say something about Gatwa and RTD2 that Bonnie Langford is now seen as a quality addition. She was huge in EastEnders, and good for Bonnie because she was massive. She was so popular, wasn't she? And everybody, even I who don't watch it, had heard about how successful she was and how they brought her back for a longer run and how brilliant she was. And I think that's where a certain showrunner went, she's been Doctor Who.
Yeah,
she could boost my ratings. And if the ratings do go up tomorrow, I'm going to put it down to Bonnie.
Yeah. I think the trouble with Bonnie's character previously was they'd written her like a caricature of Bonnie Langford rather than an actual character. That's the problem. So. And now she's matured as an actor and she's much stronger, much better, and she's written properly, and that'll make a difference, or it should.
Well, I love Bonnie. I love Bonnie. She's always been very nice on the occasions I've met her. I love her to bits. So I'm thrilled to see her. And to be quite honest, that's one of the reasons I watch the Tenant things, apart from this channel, and it's why I'll watch the next two as well. Apart from the fact that we have committed to finishing this. So that's
great. We certainly should be committed. That's for sure. Yes,
and we might well be. We might well be next week. William is here with us as well, saying Bonnie's got charm. She has. I love that as well. So yes, and everybody's saying that Gatwa looks like one of the village people in this episode. I think that's probably intentional because he does look like he's just stepped out of a 1980s gay club. Trust me, I think I had that look in 1989. The TV Times also put Doctor Who on the cover. Can you see it just there? Doctor Who finale in the little corner there on the right, but it is on the cover. And it is also on the cover of TV and Satellite Week on the left-hand side there, because they've decided to go with House of the Dragon 2. But inside TV and Satellite Week, they give it a 2-page double spread where they focus again on Millie Gibson. They focus on her and Lenny, what's his name, that's appearing in this as well. They do mention Bonnie, of course.
But Bonnie's on the front cover with Shooty, not Millie, which is really weird in both cases, isn't it?
Again, it's a selling point.
Yeah.
People know Bonnie. People know Bonnie in this country, and she does have a fan following. But whether or not they come to Doctor Who, because that's the mistake John made. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. But that's what John thought. Oh, Bonnie's fans will come to Doctor Who because of Bonnie, and they didn't, did they? Do you remember in '86 and '87 they didn't? Because they like the musicals, they like the live shows. You know, they don't necessarily like Doctor Who. But again, the EastEnders fans didn't come for the giggle, Ian.
Yeah.
Sorry?
It was a totally different demographic, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Bonnie's fans in the 80s.
Well, totally. But again, she was in the giggle, and the EastEnders audience didn't come for the giggle for her.
Yeah.
The Bonnie fans didn't come for the. I mean, Bonnie used to have albums out that were big sellers back in the day, because she's a singer too. Anyways, yeah, they were huge as well, weren't they, on those labels? So that was TV and Satellite Week, and that was their inside article. TV Guide, Total TV Guide, sorry. There again is Bonnie with Gatwa on the bottom right of their cover. See, it's getting a little bit more coverage, this. And then inside Total TV Guide, another 2-page spread. Now, this is exactly the same stuff as all the others. There is nothing different about this. Just like I said last week, it's as though a press release has gone out rather than the usual old-fashioned junket where people can ask different questions or spend time going around with the stars of the show. It's as though it's all been written and it's all been sent out to say, these are the questions that we've asked them. And these are do you know what I mean? I might be wrong, but this is how it sounds, because every single one of these things is exactly the same. So there you've got the Total TV Guide. It does focus on Bonnie. TV Choice. This is all it's got from TV Choice, just this teeny weeny thing. Oh, actually, no, I think there's another bit. But this is on the page of the, the highlights of the week, but it's not the first one. That goes again to the Game of Thrones thing. But it is written by Graham Kibble-White, ex-Doctor Who, or I think he still occasionally submits something for Doctor Who magazine. The lovely Graham Kibble-White. So there he is. TV Choice gives this Hot TV this week. There it is there. Okay. Gives it that these aren't as big as they appear on this, by the way, but there is Anita Dobson in the mix there as well. Again, EastEnders link, possibly.
The thing about Anita Dobson as well is, I mean, she's hardly been in this season at all. It's like I've forgotten who she was.
Who was she? The neighbour?
Yeah,
she was the neighbour.
But she was plugged very heavily, wasn't she? Oh, she's going to be in this, and you expected a much more pronounced role.
And doing that big thing in the Christmas one when she winks at the camera and all that stuff. It's like,
I've forgotten about that.
Yeah.
Breaking the fourth wall again. This series has done that a lot because the Drag Whack did that as well, didn't it?
That's right, yes.
And he did when he winked to the camera as well.
I've forgotten about that. Oh my gosh, thank you for reminding me about that, because that's just nonsense. And Talons is saying to us here, Mrs. Flood.
That's it, yeah.
Because we've all forgotten the name because we're not that bothered. Dalek, I love you, was saying to us, is it me or has Gatwa lost his smile in these promo pics because he looked peed off?
So are we.
Yeah, I can't say your name, but thank you very much for joining us. I can't say that.
It's a shame you can't.
It's a shame I can't. But thank you very much for joining us. I do appreciate it, but I can't say it. I saw Peter Capaldi in something after Doctor Who, and he was dynamic, so they must have stifled him. He was brilliant in Doctor Who, though, as well. He was an example of a proper actor taking a very poor script and elevating it like good actors do, and making it watchable and engaging, because he had some dire scripts, didn't he?
Oh,
he really did. Yeah. I'm going to call you Shaftesbury, but it's lovely to see you.
Hey, Hank Shaftesbury.
Oh, I don't know what we can do now. That's great. But thank you for that there.
Barclay Shaftesbury would be quite good, wouldn't it? Yes.
Yeah. So we've got, if I hear the words Ruby Sunday again, I may scream. I'm calling it Ruby Slippers at the moment. And Matt's the Silent Week Music King's been with us this evening. Thank you, Matt. Boo Gatwa. Very simple and to the point. And Lisa is saying in response, Peter was great in the Suicide Squad and brilliant in the thick of it. Pure magic.
Yeah.
So that was that particular one. There's one more we've got here as well, and this is from TV Choice as well. Back in time, it's exclaimed in this article. I've zoomed in a couple of things here for you as well, because again, it's about Bonnie. TV Choice asked Bonnie, you originally apparently they asked her, you originally starred as Mel from Doctor Who 1986-87. What's it been like returning to the show? Bonnie says, great. I never thought I'd be back. The idea seems ridiculous, but it's lovely to come back to a character who I always felt was unfinished. This week's episode is called The Legend of the Ruby Slippers. What can you tell us about it? Bonnie replies, Ruby has been trying to discover who her birth mother is. She feels like her whole life is a mystery. Sounds like Toy Record. That's where we start in this episode. Ruby and the Doctor go on so many different adventures, and her wish is that she could go to a place where she finds out who her mum is. TV choice. Mel now works for UNIT, the military organization that monitors extraterrestrial activity. Are you enjoying that? It seems that every ex-companion of the Doctor's works for UNIT these days. It's really nice, says Bonnie, to be in a story where Mel is able to contribute with her skills and to be part of this family that understands who and what the Doctor is. In this episode, things get rather massive. Have you enjoyed working with Ncuti Gatwa? Well, we just instantly bonded on set, says Bonnie. He's got such a great energy and such a light in his spirit. Working with Millie was delightful too. It's a whole young, cool vibe, and I feel like the Nana among them. Bless her. Does the show feel different to your original stint? It does. When I did it, I think it was regarded as slightly offbeat, weird show where only a small minority of people would watch it. See what I mean about this? Now it really does feel so inclusive, and there's a lot more love for it. Oh, bless you, Bonnie. There isn't any more. And then the same question, have you enjoyed watching this series? And she gives the same answer. So do you see what I mean? It's only when you start looking at them all, like I've done for these shows, that you go, hang on a minute, something's gone on here. It's propaganda in a sense, possibly, allegedly. But they were the TV listings here in the UK this week. Those magazines there, they were all that covered it, as far as I could find out. So again, we'll be looking at what they're saying about the finale through next week's show. Wow. So that's that particular one. Yes. So we are going to be looking at, just another plug. We're going to be reviewing here on the channel, The Legend of Ruby Slippers, 8 o'clock Sunday night, UK time, here live. Come and join us.
Can I ask to brace myself for the final episode? Is that longer as well?
Yes, it's an hour, isn't it?
Oh,
I think so, yeah.
This is an hour. Yeah.
Right.
Again, it just shows that following the original templates, they are very, very sort of. It was that arrogance, wasn't it? That we're going to be huge here. This is, Do
you remember when we would have looked forward to an hour's Doctor Who?
Yeah. Yes, and it wasn't that long ago. It was 7 years ago.
It's so sad. It really is.
I'm dreading that bit, Paul Ashworth. Give us the loving. No, just give us great cipher. The giving the love. I mean, the whole way this version of Doctor Who speaks is not the Doctor. It's another reason why I said on our last show for Rogue, he's not the Doctor for me. It's not worked, and I've now judged. Demorpin is saying here as well, Capaldi was my fan casting for so long. I suppose it was a good way to end my love of Doctor Who. I just wish he'd been treated better. Here. Much better. He deserved.
I still think potentially if Ncuti was written like the Doctor, he might have got away with it. But
yeah. Mike Disney says it's nice they've made the questions and answers different colours. It makes it much easier to read. They always do that in British magazines. Do they not? Where you are? Are you? I thought you were in Britain. Where are you, Mike? Let me know. But they've been doing that forever, really. And Paul Richards is saying to us, Bonnie wasn't too bad in Terror of the Vervoids. With Gatwa, it seems like two companions. I hope they've written Mel correctly. She is a companion. She may be an ex-companion, but she's a companion.
She'll be in the background.
I hope not. For 2 episodes. If I tell you what, I'll be livid actually, Bedweir, if she is. I will be livid because she's a good actress.
Well, no,
she has got her own moped though.
I was going to say the scene with her on the moped, so at least she'll get some.
Yeah, she gets an action sequence.
Yeah.
Well, this is their point to give Mel the role she never had in the original series, Ian.
Yeah. I was hoping for a reprise of the bubble traps. That would be quite fun.
Yeah, as long as that Rose stepped on that. I just wondered if that lad cosplaying as a girl would get in the way instead, because they'll want them more front and center, won't they? Because
because remember, the Rani is coming back along with Omega and the Master and who else, Sutek, etc. So
Sutek and everything like this.
Yeah,
allegedly. But it doesn't. It looks like it's all red herrings. We're seeing all that. Join us on Sunday for our review, because we're going to go through that, because it looks like it is all misleading. Mike is saying to us, "Oh, gird your loins." I just keep thinking that lovely show is on the other side with that fella in his barge traveling around Britain, and I really liked that one. So I'm just thinking, I'd rather watch that. Unit takes on anyone. Jason is 15 and telling male privileges off. There's a lot of youngsters working in Unit now, isn't there? There really is. And Mark Kavanagh is saying to us here, anyone going to see the cinema to see well, none of us here, but there's a couple of you in the chat, I believe, going to see this, so we will get them back. we'll get.
Is there a time difference between this and the one that he was in, that Yasmin Finney was in? Between this,
Nearly a year, apparently.
It's only just a year, no more than that.
I think it's stated in the Ruby Slippers episode tomorrow. I think it's stated that it's. I think it's nearly a year. I read somewhere, so it's anywhere between 6 and 9 months or something like that.
I just wonder if that made him older, because that makes him almost a year older. But I wondered, yeah, maybe. But
yeah. Got lots of chats from you, so thank you very much as ever for everybody joining us for this one. Alien Airplanes is saying, and now I'm being excited in your stead. Thank you very much. And Richard is saying, I bet he cries in 30 minutes. Let's have a look. Let's time that. Remember that one. Everybody time how long it actually takes.
Well, I reckon he'll do it 3 times and do the hat trick this time round. Yeah. So
exactly.
Just for the football fans there, that was it.
If Gatwood crying was a drinking game, you'd be shit-faced before the last episode, wouldn't you?
yeah.
It would be, yeah. Bonnie is Sutek, says Neville.
That'd be a better way to watch it, Ian, if you were drunk, to be fair.
Exactly.
It James probably make more sense as well.
Yeah.
James is saying to us, I'd be curious to see how the cinema experience goes. Well, we've got a couple of people going to them, and I've asked them to give us a report about what's happening.
And that's just 2 of them, obviously.
Simon L is one of those that's going to the cinema. He's going to let us know how that gets on. So he's actually now, he's told me today, he's actually going to be closing down all his social media over today. He won't be joining us on Sunday. He's closing everything down because he's going to go to the pictures next Friday at midnight to watch the leg end of, for 11 o'clock to watch the leg end of the Ruby Slippers first, and then the 12 o'clock showing of the Empire of Death. So he's going to come back and tell us all about that after that. So looking forward to hearing what he's done.
At least the Empire of Death sounds like a Doctor Who title. That's one.
Yeah, it's a traditional Doctor Who title, but we'll soon find out what it's all about, because it's not long to go until, if you are watching it on the iPlayer here in the UK, you haven't got long to go as we are broadcasting live. And Mark Mulford is saying to us, thoughts and prayers to the panel for watching this abomination. Your reward will be in heaven. They're not going to let me in heaven.
I'm surprised it's not called the British Empire of Death. That would be more problematic.
Oh, can you imagine? Yeah. I'm not sure if I believe in heaven anyway, really, because I'm sure hell's taking it over as a timeshare these days. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Hell always sounds more attractive to me, to be honest. But yeah,
exactly. This is another example here. How about a child as a science officer for UNIT? I know.
I had no idea Lenny Rush was 15.
He's
15. A boy genius, though. He's a boy genius, like Adric. But
like Adric.
Can he not walk then? Or is that why he's on the Segway, or is it just quirky?
I don't know.
No, he has got a disability, I think. Rush, yeah.
But I don't know what Shirley Ann Bingham did to get fired from UNIT and replaced by a 15-year-old.
No, Russell has said she will be back in Series 2.
Okay.
Maybe she needed to reload her wheelchair.
She was probably working or something.
She's gone back to Cambridge, obviously. That's what she came back.
He has said, it's not in these particular notes, he has said that we'll be seeing her again.
Well, they obviously thought Lenny Rush was a get, and maybe would bring in more viewers for some reason. I don't know. I've not seen him in it.
I don't know what it's all about. I really don't know what it's all about at all.
He's actually very funny. He's in a comedy series I've seen him. He's quite funny in that. Can't remember the name of the program, but it's quite funny.
Daz Blue is saying to us here as well, I'll start with him crying in the TARDIS over Rogue.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah.
And if it is Sutek, says Paul Richards, he will say, don't assume my pronouns, you groveling insect. You might laugh. It might laugh. But it probably will.
Well, you don't want to mess with Sutek, let's be honest, but
I can't see it being Sutek because it's too problematic. He's a massive big and can you imagine Ncuti Gatwa playing against that sort of character? It's going to be weak as water. We will find out tomorrow.
What is it Holy Grail? Run away! That's kind of what it's like.
Yeah. Watch with a stiff drink, says John. Yes. I hear Russell has a cameo in it tomorrow as a writer. Oh, you're Richard, you're naughty, you're very, very naughty. And what else?
He can't play that part. He's not. He has to be a real writer to do it. So.
And hello to Angel DJ's back with us. Hello, Angel. How are you? I met Bonnie when she played Violet Elizabeth. I never knew she had records out with that lisp. Yeah, but she used to do loads of entertainment shows when I was a kid with a contemporary of hers called Lena Zavaroni.
Yeah.
They were huge. Yeah. God bless her. Yeah, they were huge. Oh, bless her. They see, isn't it weird? Lena had various issues which are similar to the issues that are going on with some of the kids today, you know, and isn't it strange? So thank you everybody for joining us tonight on Whose Views. We're going to call it there. So thank you very much for being with us. Guys, I hope you've enjoyed that chat. Thank you, Bedweer, so much for all that hard work again.
No problem. No problem.
Top notch.
Although, does this mean I have to go and look at box office top 10s next week?
Yes, you do. Yes.
If we can get them. I was inquiring about those, and I've hit brick walls so far. It's all weird now. Why are they just not giving the information anymore? You have to pay for certain amounts of money now to get certain bits of information. All used to be free. It's absolutely ridiculous. Hello, Kieran. Kieran McMahon is with us. Dr. Deadpool, a gay man walking. That's a Disney. So thank you very much. But yes, great to see you all. Again, thank you so much for everybody for joining us tonight and all your fantastic comments. We will be back on Sunday, as I say, for our review of the Legend of the Ruby Slippers. Come and join us for that one. We'll be delighted to see you all, and thank you for everybody that gave us a little, what do you call it, a little gratuity or
Super
something,
chat.
a little chat. Yeah, things have changed slightly here for us, and it's all because of you guys coming to support us, and we are really appreciative of it. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please subscribe to the channel. We may be small, but we've got big ambitions. I can tell you that. And we've got lots coming up for you as well, including now, live on the show, suddenly decided, executive decision, a review at Christmas of the Wallace and Gromit Christmas special. Woo!
And Feast of Stephen.
Maybe, perhaps. But listen, we will be back then. If you're watching Disney Who in the next couple of hours live on the iPlayer, good luck to you. Come back and tell us what you think about it on Sunday. If you're going to wait and watch it at other times again, and if you're seeing it at a decent time in the rest of the world, good luck with it. Hope you enjoy it. I don't know if we're going to. What will the scores on the TARDIS doors be for this episode? What will the overnight ratings be for that episode? Everything will be revealed here on Whose Views on Sunday. It's nearly over. It's nearly over.
2 to go.
Thank you guys for joining me. We will see you again very soon, everybody. Have a great weekend. We'll see you on Sunday. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.